Just tested it. It looked like it's working. I hope you can hear me. Let me know if you can't hear me because I just tested that. Okay. What happened to my notes? That just went somewhere. Okay. So again, that's going to be important looking at the land. I know you guys have never thought about it like that before, and this might be something new. Okay. No one's talked about it like that before, but that's important. I've just counseled a lot of people that have been in the ATR, and they come to me and they try to figure out why they're not making progress. And usually that is the only thing that I can come up with. I can only come up with it's got to be the land. Okay, it's got to be ancestors here that you're not recognizing. And it's usually when I ask them about ancestor veneration, it's usually because I ask them why they're not doing it. They're saying that, their religion or whatever is saying they don't want them to do that. They want them to focus on their rishas. I don't recommend that. How you gonna talk to a spirit? Uh, how you gonna talk to your another spirit and you don't even know how to you haven't developed a relationship with your ancestors is your first form of mediumship. They're going to teach you how to communicate with spirits. They're going to teach you the language of spirits before you go on to start working with these other higher deities. It's not going to do it's going to make your process go a lot easier. Okay, or you gonna keep on having to pay for rituals over and over and over again because you don't know what's going on with your altar these spirits. But if you had a relationship with your ancestors and you'd have already picked that up, open it up, and start communicating with your ancestors and know the language of spirits, your practice when you decide to get initiated into an ATR, it'll probably go a lot smoother because you already have some experience in working with spirits. Okay, that's why you all hunger. It's gonna take you longer, and then they're gonna have to teach you their way. I just don't recommend it. I just don't. It's just something that don't feels good about that. I'm not finna go past ancestors that's been tortured and planted all this stuff and marched and all this stuff out on the American land to go over there to some ancestors. They didn't do what we did. My thing is that your magic that y'all use y'all ATR to get any type of rights where y'all are. Now, that's my that's what Hoodoo did. Hoodoo got us civil rights. It got us freedom. That's why a lot of them can come to Americas and enjoy a lot of the privilege over there. That's what Hoodoo did. Now, I don't even understand that because if their ATR didn't do that, then why am I going on? Because your ancestors didn't do that. I don't understand why you would think their magic is more powerful than your ancestors' magic because your ancestors' magic got civil rights and got you freedom and liberations that they didn't have. So it just confuses me when you think that. How can they magic be more? My thing is, let me see what your magic do. Cause see, we was using hoodoo in court cases and things like that. That's what we was doing. So if you think they're magic, and then when you go over there in Africa, not a lot of them practice their own indigenous spiritual practice. A lot of them been brainwashed with Christianity. It's only a small percentage of them that practice their own ATR in their whole country. That's not what they call it, but God, honey, that's for a lack of a better term. That's what I'm calling it. Okay, a lot of them practice Christianity. They don't practice their own ATRs. There's only a small percentage of them. A lot of them is brainwashed with Christianity, and the people that do practice the ATR usually they are orchestrated, you know, by the Christian folks there on that continent. I'm breaking down all this stuff, all the false perceptions. African traditional religion, ATR, African traditional religion, African tradition. If you are of color and you don't know this, where have you been? Okay? ATR is an African traditional religion. That is the short term for African traditional religion or ancestral traditional religion. I do not recommend it. Okay? And why would you think that? That's why I was like, why are they going over there? And I would hear some people. My thing is, I had started looking. I was like, why would you think that? Because I Hoodoo was got us freedom and liberation. You best believe it was right there in the civil rights. It was among the church. Hoodoo was all in the church. Is it? We made sure we infiltrated that very well. The hoodoo was in every church, whether they knew it or not. It was up in there. It was up in there, whether they wanted to be or not. We had to put some power in there. Wasn't no power in that stuff. You actually believe we were gonna practice that the way that the colonizers was practicing that? No. Okay. But you can call it ancestral traditional religion as well. Because all of it is ancestral. I don't even know why we call it African, because it's ancestral. Most of the practices are more and they're following the roots of their ancestors. They're calling on their ancestors in that. Most of the ancestors have been lifted to saint status, just like you see in Catholicism. You're going to see the same thing in voodoo. That's why I have to look at Catholicism and ask them where y'all get that from. Because our ancestors went right up in there and synchronized their own gods and lords right up in there. So, Catholicism, where did y'all get that system from? And we know voodoo is older than Catholicism. And we know y'all be copying stuff from our ancestors because we already know where the Ten Commandments come from. We know that come from May. We already know you stealing stuff. So where did you get Catholicism at? Because our ancestors went right up in there and synchronized it. Didn't miss a beat. Okay? They were still able to preserve their own spiritual system up under it. See, look what the chakra just said. She said they said in South Africa, pastor consult with shamans and traditional doctors. Ain't no power in that Christian. It ain't. Why would they give you something? The people that is trying to oppress you and beat the crap out of you, and just you actually believe they're gonna give you something that work? They're gonna give you something that's gonna put them in their place. No, they're gonna give you something that's just totally empty, don't mean nothing, and they're gonna brainwash you to believe it, and then pay other people to brainwash you to keep believing it. That's what's going on there. Okay, how did that happen? Especially now, because that's what you got now. Because a lot of these people, a lot of these preachers are Freemasons. They boule. They preaching this prosperity stuff. They're not. They're not doing what they're supposed to be doing. A lot of compromising, infiltration went on in the black church. Thank you, Chakra Gent. Hoodoo emerged at the intersection of African spirituality, science, and indigenous land-based knowledge. That meeting was not accidental. It was necessary to survive. Okay. The trans-American slave trade, indigenous people alongside African, is rarely discussed. It exposes genocide, illegal enslavement, which we talked about that. Acknowledging this history reveals that hoodoo did not develop in isolation. It was shared. Okay. That's what we built. Indigenous influence shows up clearly in hoodoo's herbalism, use of roots, animal allies, land spirits, burial practice, and the understanding that spirits live in place not only in heaven. African people brought cosmology, ancestor veneration, and spirit technologies. Indigenous people brought intimate knowledge of the land and what heals, what harms, what protects, and what opens the veil. Hoodoo is powerfully precisely because it is both blood memory and land memory. There is no hoodoo without this. Again, it's all together. And when you start looking at, we looking at African slave medicine too, you're seeing hoodoo become the medicine. When you having to use these herbs and call on your ancestors and do this prayer work, you're not only seeing uh um medicine. I mean, you're not only seeing hoodoo as magic, you're seeing hoodoo as medicine as well. You're seeing these spirits of the plants, the spirits of the land work in the people and healing the people. So all of this is important. It all work together. And so once you start looking at how our ancestors was using plant medicine and plant spirits uh in healing, because it's a whole healing modality too, you start looking at all the parts of hoodoo and not just magic. Because hoodoo is not just magic. If you think that, then you have missed the whole point of it. It is resilience. This all our ancestors had was their relationship with the land, with the relationship. They trust the land and the plants more than they trust these raggedy people, okay? And then the people start poisoning the land, knocking down the medicine. Some of them start turning up the medicine because they didn't want us using the medicine, plants and herbs and stuff. But that's what our ancestors was using, and using it some of it to heal some of these raggedy people. And when you look at the American, United States medicine industry, they would have not made some of the developments they have, evolved the way they have now without black people being in the middle of helping them. How you think they learned anything about delivering babies? They didn't know anything about that. They had to come to black women. One of the major reasons confusion exists around hoodoo today is because many people have been taught to look away from the land. Their ancestors actually lived and died. They fought on the land. They planted on the land. Okay. Africans were not simply added to the indigenous societies, they were absorbed into them. You have not been African for so long. Can we look at some of the ATRs and try to understand some of the archetypes in hoodoo? Absolutely. You cannot talk about hoodoo without talking about voodoo. Not I hear people try to separate that all the time. You cannot separate that. It's ancestral. You stay with hoodoo long enough, you're gonna run into voodoo. So you tell me somebody who ain't did it. You're gonna run into that. It's in your blood. Why wouldn't you run into it? Can't change the blood. I don't care about your religion. The ancestors they don't care about that. They know what they put inside you. It doesn't change the fact the ancestors didn't put that in you. That is not in you. That's why I have to look at people when they go with this religion thing. You're talking like colonizers. Shut up and sit down. Please be quiet and sit down. You know what you're talking about. Stop talking about a religion. Somebody done banged it upside your head. You talking like colonizers. Sit down and be quiet. This is in our bloodline. This bloodline magic. What are you talking about? I don't care about your religion. There you go with that. Be quiet. Sit down. You don't know what you're talking. These spirits don't care about that. If they want to work with you, they don't. They're gonna work with you. Your ancestors want you to know that. They're gonna teach you that. People get mad when I say that. When you tell the people that's working with doing voodoo and all this stuff and they ain't initiating, they doing it very well. They working with Orishas and all that. Ain't nobody initiate them. What's gonna initiate you is them spirits. You ain't gonna be no people that do that. Okay? I don't care what these people telling you. They trying to get you to work with a spirit. At the bottom line, what they doing? Trying to get you to work with this spirit. That's what you want to do. Not gonna take you through all that political change. The people are so complicated. They mean well, we do, ancestors, we do. But some of us, we just I'm sorry. We mean well, okay? But you trying to work with a spirit, so don't you actually think no person ain't gonna teach you nothing. They don't know. We don't know nothing. These spirits be teaching us stuff. Yes, it comes to you. It is in the blood. It was called to make money or for the first time. Okay. Okay. They will come. They'll show you stuff. If you sit there and be quiet and stop looking at people, because people they mean well. That we do. We do the best we can. I think some of us will tell the truth. But at some point, we stop using our intuition and we fall into the hijacking. Okay? I don't fall for the hijacking because your spiritual journey is a personal journey. Don't nobody can't tell you about you. That's the problem. You got too many people trying to tell you what to do. But you need to be sitting down by yourself, listening to yourself. Okay, they can guide you and give you some pointers and help you, give you a little pointers. But ultimately, it's a relationship you're gonna have to develop with God and these spirits and your ancestors. You're gonna have to do that by yourself. Okay, they can show you and all this stuff, but you're gonna have to do the work. You get a lot of people they want to learn the magic, and I don't know how to feel about that. You want to learn magic, and you ain't even got you're not even there. You don't even know what hoodoo all about. These people using this to save their life, and you up here talking about this magic. Is something wrong with you? Without this, our ancestors wouldn't be here. And you sitting up here talking about this magic, and these people was using this to save their life and brought you in this world, make sure you was healthy. And you talking about this, you gonna boil this down to just magic. I don't like it when you do it like that. Because you boil it down. This is more than that. This is saving our ancestors' life. I don't think you know. Hoodoo is black. It is black history. It's black heritage. And I'll tell the black church right now, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't even have no church without hoodoo. You forgot who you were is. And you think these people, without calling on your ancestors, you actually think their religion is working now? How is it working for you now? Because y'all been begging, these preachers been begging you out your money. So it can't be working because you still the preacher begging you out your money, seeping you dry. You're the valley of dead bones. You ain't got no substance in you, some of you. The church become a circus up in there. You're flying from cables and stuff on hoverboards. Just like you ain't you done run out. You don't know what you're doing. Ain't no power in there nowhere in the world. If that power was in that church, we would be seeing what we seeing right now in the church. I mean, right now in the church, or right now what you seeing right now, because our ancestors had their foot on their neck and they wasn't playing. And I don't know how to feel about this foundation of Black Americans. Nah, we ain't that. I'm not finna keep playing with these people. When I talk to these people in Thailand, and they ask me who I am, I say I'm American. I don't say no Black American. I don't say I'm American. The fuck you mean? And don't nobody be looking at me second guessing me either. You only get that over there in that country because they're sick in the mind. Something wrong with them. The hell? You come from somewhere else and gonna call me African American. Jesse Jackson went along with that. You on the wrong side of history too, Jesse Jackson. You got some of our ancestors on the wrong side of history. You just sit there and let them people call it African American. And Tariq Nasheed, I think you ought to be careful with that foundation of Black America. We are Americans. I'm not finna keep playing. We already go. You just sit there and did a whole show on who we is, and then you gonna play with these people and say we foundational black. We are Americans. The fuck you mean? Now, if them people want to call themselves white, let them do that. I'm not finna play this black and white game with you. You want me to keep calling myself black? I don't know, to make yourself feel good. But now we already know I'm American. You the one wanted to play the black and white game. You the one say I'm gonna label y'all this and that, and cause I'm gonna label myself white. Then you do that with your raggedy self. It ain't gonna change the fact that you raggedy. But I'm not calling myself there, and I know where the hell I come from. My ancestors told me I was American. Now, if you want to call yourself white and black and you want to play these damn games with yourself, you go right ahead. But see, we need to stop playing games with them. I mean that. Now I don't know where you get that, where you come up with this name Foundation of Black America. Why is black got it? Are you boule? That's why I have to ask, is you doing some boule shit? Because I don't like that. The hell you done sat there and we done sat there and told you we're Americans, we're Americans, we're Americans. We're Americans, we're Americans, we're Americans. Our ancestors said we was Americans, Americans. You just sat there and went back and forth with these African people, humiliating them and stuff to prove that you are foundational black American. And you gonna go on with this? I don't understand that. I think if it feel Jackie-ish. It feel like Jesse Jackie-ish to me. I don't know. And we didn't collectively agree on that. You just come out and start calling us that. No. Here we go with that shit again. Now you need to check in with us. You tell it you could just gonna make yourself the leader of what we want to be called. No. The fuck? No. We are Americans. I hope Tariq Nasheed, somebody share that with him. You need to understand that. And you understand, you say you know history and all this stuff. Why the hell you keep doing this? Why are you saying we're foundational black? Why are you doing that? And you know damn well we're Americans. We was already here. Now, if them people want to call us Africa, well, y'all came from Africa. You think that with your simple-minded ass, you don't even know where you come from. You was lost. Y'all say y'all discovered some shit that was already there. Look at you. We talking to somebody who didn't even know how to bathe themselves. Are you serious? They thought being funky was a superpower. Come on now. And you want me to listen to them. A person that didn't even know how to wash themselves up. I can't. Tariq Nasheed, y'all need to listen to that. I think you're setting us up again with that black shit. Because the fact of the matter is, there's too many documentations out there showing that who we are for us to keep playing that game with them. You keep playing that game with them. They need that. The game only works if you're going to be calling yourself what they want you to be. And I'm not that. The fuck, I'm not doing that. You're still under that subjection with this black and white game they're playing. I just wouldn't do it. You need to think about it and stop calling us. We didn't say we want to be called that, don't take it upon yourself to call us that. We're Americans. Not in that black term or none of that. No, we are Americans. They made all this stuff up with this pay. They got to correct that stuff. Keep your foot on their neck. Do not play with them like that. Do not play footsie with them. Don't be nice with them. The hell they come. You're immigrants. They're immigrants. You don't even come from America. You want to tell somebody who they was? Who are you? Raggedy self. No. Now, I don't agree with that. That's one thing I don't agree with because I feel like you're still playing the game. It feels so Jesse Jackie-ish. And we never agreed with that. You just came out and started saying that. And then we start going along with it. You didn't come to the community and ask, how do we feel about that? Or should we call ourselves Americans because we do have this? And the thing about it is you did a whole documentary on who we are and then start playing that game. Boy, no, I don't like it. Now, y'all take that with that. I think they setting us up again. I don't like that, especially when we know who we are. Stop it with the black crap. We already know who we are. We already know not a lot of Africans came over here. Americans were already doing some good stuff. We had a metropolitan there. Okay, America was in its golden age. Didn't nobody have what we had in America? We had advanced waterways, advanced ships and things like that, advanced agriculture. People had been trying to get over there in the Americas for centuries because it was the most sacred, beloved, holy land. It was the land flowing with milk and honey. We were already trading with the Americas and with the other islands around us. The Melanesians, the Samoans, we were already had a relationship with all of them. We were already in contact with those little islands. Haiti, all that was the Americas. We were all family over there. These are the people that didn't know where the hell they were going, trying to separate us. But we're the same people. You don't think we were in contact with each other? You don't think we had ever? They act like we ain't never seen no ship or been on no water until they came over here. Like we wasn't doing shit, we weren't popping, we weren't visiting other people and seeing shit. Yeah, I'm not rocking with that Black Foundation of America. I'm not playing with you. All these words. What got to be all these damn words? Stop it with that. What does that mean? Again, you're alluding to a fact. Now let's just say the fact of the matter, we're American. I can't finna people keep playing with these people. And if you ask me, we should have been and did a Haiti over there with you people, because that's what it's gonna take. Somebody Hoodoo should have turned into a Haiti. It was getting there. It was getting there. We had too many revolutionaries. Need to keep your cause you raggedy the way you done did them people over there. You raggedy. We should have kept your because that's the only way America gonna give you righteous again. And as black people keep their neck a foot on your neck. Cause they have to, cause you're too raggedy. Cause you ain't gonna do the right thing. We got to keep you exposed. We got to keep you looking at your raggedy self. Cause if you don't, you keep on doing raggedy stuff. You don't like us talking because we righteous people. And we don't play with you. We show you your ugliness. And you need to be reminded of it. Because if you don't, look at the stuff you're doing now. And hurt all them children and women like that. And then then Catholics did the same thing. When they did that to them children, we don't want to talk about that. We doing business about what? Because the God that you serving is fake. It ain't no God you serving. And if that's your God, I hate to see your devil. If that's the God you serving, I hate to see your devil. You ain't doing nothing up in there but hurting people. But you're raggedy self because you're just raggedy. And we need to keep the foot on your neck all the time because you're a beast, you're an animal. And anybody can do that to anybody. And see, it was okay when they was doing, like I said, it was okay when they were doing it to people that look like me. Y'all was blaming it on us. But now they doing that shit to you. You understand me? That's who they are. That's who your ancestors is. And hell no, you can't jump over here to Hoodoo. You better deal with that shit over there. You understand me? And you can call yourself playing with this as if you want to. You're going to get you a tipsy topsy, a baron samedi. It ain't going to turn out good for you. You keep playing with that if you want to. Now, they love playing with it, y'all, because I see it in all their books. That's why I take you through these books so I can keep showing you. They keep bringing you up in their books. They can't talk about their story without talking about your ancestors. They can't talk about it. They want to be initiated, and it's sickening. Why would you want to do that after what your ancestors did to us? Look at you. It's the disrespect for me. It's the disrespect for me. Every time I see him want to come over, why would you want to do that? Let me go show you. Let me put your face into what your ancestors did to us. And then I'm going to see if you truly want to be over here after you see what your ancestors did. I don't care about you quoting it in your little fancy book and then proceeds to pick up Hoodoo. No, I want to let you show you the pictures, the strange fruit. I want you to see all that. Emmett Till. I want you to see that because that's what Hoodoo was born out of. And if you can't stomach that, you can't fix that, don't you come over here. I think you need to be fixing that. You probably need to become a John Brown. He did what was right because he was trying to eliminate them. He was a pale face. He was trying to lay them down. He knew what needed to be done, and he wasn't playing with them. I don't blame that man. Best white man, probably the only white man I don't trust in history is John Brown. Okay, that's the only black man. That's the only white man I would trust because he put his hands on them people. He wasn't playing with them. He said God anointed him for that. That's what needs to happen. That's what they scared of. Because if it truly was a God, he would possess you to put an end to that. Because that's the kind of God y'all say y'all got. Because if it truly was a God, again, he gonna move people to put you down somewhere. That's what you don't want. But that's the God y'all say y'all serve. And that's exactly what they had to do in Haiti. They had to call ancestors to put them people down. The rabid dogs. They let you know, look what they did to them people. And that man sitting up there wearing a diaper and saying that he ain't even concerned with these files. Keep your foot on their neck. Keep showing them that they raggedy. Because they raggedy. Understand me? And we told you, and now you see they doing it. They ain't just doing it. And even then, they wasn't doing that just to people that look like they've been doing their wives and stuff and children like that. They been raggedy like that. It just got hid. They been raggedy like that. The hell? Okay. They been like that. Just keep your foot on their neck. Don't stop. Keep showing them raggedy stuff. Show them they raggedy stuff. Why would you want to see everything you work so hard on? You work hard to create raggedy stuff. Why you don't want to look at it? You worked hard trying to create the raggedy stuff in history, and now you don't want to look at it. This is what you so proud of. You honor your ragged ass ancestors that do all types of inhumane stuff to people, and you make statues and stuff. And now that we show you what it is and give it context so you can be really proud of it, now you don't want to hear it. But you so proud of the regular shit that they was doing though. And then it's for the other people that you want to be like these people. Your ancestors brought. If your ancestors are not like them, you a person of color and you trying your best to be like these people. Your ancestors, look at you. You want to be like them, and you a person of color. I see some of y'all, the pick Mishas, the pick Miko, pick Maria. You want to be like these people. You, why would you want to be like somebody that got that type of hit? It trips me out. It trips me out when I see you trying to put bleach on, when you try to kiss their butt and all that type of stuff. Trips me out. Some people, it gives absolutely, they don't care. Is all of them like that? No. But hell, they sure got a big ass track record of years or centuries of being like that. So can't dismiss that. Okay. And now we know who doing it now. The main one in here, the main one that's running this show, he didn't look like me. They get other people sick with their craziness stuff. You're seeing it, okay? This is why the push to seek initiation exclusively in African traditional religions outside of America's often misses something essential. Initiation is not only about lineage, it is about land. Nature-based spiritual systems require relationship with place. Ancestors must recognize you, and the land must know you. When your ancestors did not, when your ancestors did not die, plant, build, or fight on their particular land, the spiritual relationship there is different. Sacred does not disappear across oceans, but it does change. Spirits are local. Okay, you got whole land spirits here in America that your ancestors have built relationship with the spirits on that land, with the plant on that land, with the land they sell. You got some root workers, the where they work their root work is through their garden. That's their root work. They plant everything, they seed everything. That's their root work. They don't do nothing but work with the land. And they magic work that way. Why? Because they have this relationship with the land and the plants. I used to wonder why my grandma had plants everywhere. So many plants. The house had so many plants everywhere. She even had a garden. A little did I know, she's using that to do her work. You can use different plants to do your work if you know what you're doing. If you know how to use plants. I was watching somebody use a potato to grow their magic. He put his petition in the potato, planted his potato in the soil, and put a corn in the potato. So as the potato grow, his money grows. That's earth magic. That's why that's that. And what is he using? The soil. He's using again the soil from the American land, and that abundance is going to come through where? Through the American soil. And what he's using the growth, the energy of the planet's of the plant's growth to move the magic. See how that work? Now you got some root workers. They do a lot of planting. They do a lot of planting. They do a lot of work with plants. Some of them ain't got a light a candle or nothing. They just work with plants. They work with the earth. They work with earth magic. They know how magic move. And if you ever watch a plant grow, that's how magic grows. That's how it moves. You can move magic that way. But you going somewhere else, you don't understand the land, you don't understand your ancestors' magic, and you going somewhere else trying to understand their magic with their ancestors on different land. I think it matters. Since our practices are nature based, you don't think that matters? Our practices are nature based. We got relationship with plants and land and roots. Do you not think that matters? Okay, I know you haven't thought about it before. That's why we talk about it in our community. It does me no good to show you a spell if you don't understand nature and you don't know how plants, you don't know how any of this works because they told you it's magic. But have to get you to understand the working mechanisms of it so you can grasp an understanding of it. So when you do start working with it, you'll know how you want your magic to look. It'll be ancestral led and not somebody telling you what to do. hmm Plants again. That again, you can have plants all around you. They gonna magnify your magic. Plants gonna magnify your magic. If you're taking care of plants, again, because everything is alive. If you do your work outside, it's going to amplify your magic because those nature spirits are going to be helping you. Once you get to talking and conjuring, you come in contact with more elemental spirits. That's why you'll see a lot of indigenous people do their magic outside on the ground. You'll see in a lot of the ATRs, some of their altars are to be on the ground. Okay. Why are they doing that? Because they're using the power of the earth. Okay. It's not that it's simple if you understand it. When people against when people dismiss indigenous influence in hoodoo or treat it as secondary, they misunderstand the practice entirely. Hoodoo is not just African memory surviving in exile. It is African memory transforming through indigenous land wisdom. It is a new nation spiritual language forged under pressure, but rooted in but deeply rooted in place. Okay, it doesn't change. You're looking at people becoming one nation. You can see that too with the Mardi Gras Indians in New Orleans. You can see that too in the 21 divisions. Because again, you have these different nations of spiritual practices coming together as one. And everybody have their own division. They became one nation. So, get this out your head that if you get over here in the African ATR, that it's going to be more powerful than hoodoo, or it's going to be more, it's going to be more superior magic. That's not always the case. Okay, that's not really true. Okay, that's not really true. So, and I know it's maybe being presented to you that way. You still have to develop a relationship with those spirits. And if you've not really familiar with your own spirits, your own ancestors, your own guardian angel, you're not familiar with you and how your abilities work, is only going to that process with going into an ATR, it's going to be a long process for you. Because by spiritual law, I'm just gonna look at this. You inherited hoodoo before you inherited anything outside of you. Hoodoo is your first heritage. You were that was given to you by product. Just like you have some of them, voodoo was already given to them because that's what their ancestors were practicing. That's the magic on their land. So by birthright, some of them just born in it because that's what their ancestors, that's what they were practicing. That was the spiritual practice that's in them. Hoodoo, again, that was created to us. And what I've heard too, looking at some of our materials and resources, hoodoo and voodoo will sometimes use interchangeably, especially when you start looking at Gullah. We're going to be going into Gullah hoodoo in a minute. And we start going into Gullah hoodoo, they're talking about voodoo, but not the religion. Trips me out, but we're going to be going through that. You should be getting that resource next week. You run into that too when you look at hoodoo in New Orleans. It becomes interchangeable. See, people don't talk about this. They talk about this religion, but when our ancestors was doing it, it was one and the same. They were using it interchangeably sometimes. I don't care what these people telling you. Is they showing you? I'm showing you resources that people are documenting our ancestors, what they're saying and what they're doing. I don't care what these people telling you. I'm taking you to documentation stuff that's been documented. You understand me? By people that look like me and you. They're recording what our ancestors are telling them. Okay, I'm not gonna make nothing. I'm gonna show you where it is. So when somebody start telling you something, you'll know when it's off. I follow the ancestors. I don't listen to these people. I suggest you do the same if you want the truth. Because if you go to follow them people, listen to everything that they say and hanging on, don't study for yourself, don't listen to your own ancestors, your own intuition, you gon' you can find yourself in a pickle. Okay? In our community, are you gonna hear me say that? What did your ancestors tell you? What came up for you? I don't care what them people told you. I want to know what came up for you, what your ancestors told you. Because ancestors don't lie. They don't lie. You may not like what they say, but they don't lie. And what you heard the spirits tell you is a different story. That's what was tripping me out with them. I said, "Well, is these people lying? Is you lying, ancestors?" No, we ain't lying, but they not telling the truth. That's not what that is. They have been right every time because people, they mean well, but they don't know as much as they think they know. Okay, that's the only thing I got to tell you. I don't want to be you can bash people, but we do mean well. We do. But ultimately, the thing that's most important is getting you to be able to communicate with these spirits and trust your own intuition. That's the best way I can tell you. Okay, people mean well, they want to help. I don't, I just know people don't know everything, and a lot of them been programmed and they haven't dismissed a lot of this man-made stuff. They want to hold on to religion and all this stuff. This is not about that. This is about your spiritual relationship and journey. They ain't got nothing to do with no religion or nothing else. They don't even have a place here. Not in your spiritual journey. Religion is a man-made concept. to tell you to think a certain kind of way. But if you want to know something about something, these spirits gonna tell you whatever you want to know, and they don't care about no religion. I hope that made sense to you. Okay. When our people were stripped of land, language, kinship systems, and the legal right to practice any recognized religion, hoodoo remained. It was always there. They tried their best. This gonna get even more crazier as I go on. It lived quietly where it could not be legislated, away in the wombs of black women, in the memories of grandmothers, in the kitchens of gardens, graveyards, praise houses, and pine forests of the black South. Hoodoo was never merely a belief system. It was a way of staying alive in a world structured for Black death. On the plantations, Black women were among the most resourceful figures in American history. That's where it stayed preserved. And I hear a lot of people, they dismiss this. Hoodoo stayed alive in the wombs of Black women. Black women carried hoodoo with them. Do not get it twisted. Hoodoo is matriarchal. It is the women who preserve this knowledge. Denied formal power, they cultivated invisible power through herbal knowledge, midwifery, spiritual protection, dreams interpretation, root work, ritual care of the dead. Black women sustained entire communities. Their magic laid foundation that nation would later normalize, monetize, and forget the origins. American home remedies trace directly back to African American derived folk medicine. Cultural icons such as mermaids, okay, mermaids. Let me go back here. Mermaids from West and Central African, but you'll see some of those. Again, you'll see some of those myths here in America as well. And in fact, when you look at mermaids, you can see that myth of mermaids here in Thailand. You can see it here in Asia. You can see it there in Greece. You can see it there in Africa. It is not an isolated event. You can see mermaids among many folk cultures, folk myths, and many folk magic systems. It's not just isolated to Africa. Did you know that? Okay. Again, and when you're looking at that myth, you're going back to the great mother. When you're looking at water, water is the first mother. That's why you see that story of Oshun and her bringing the water and that whole system doesn't work without the divine feminine. That's what they're telling you in the ATRs. But the ATRs again, even that's being second looked at because they have some patriarchal uh misogyny structures they need to tear down in that religion because that all of those religion comes from the divine feminine. Mother is the first. Again, water is the first mother. And you'll see that being going on and on in a lot of the folk magic. Huh, interesting. I'm gonna have to look into that mermaid in Thailand. They have them here too. You'll see the again mermaids is not isolated to Africa. You will see that in a lot of the Asian cultures. You'll see them in European some of European cultures as well. It's not isolated to that. They have sightings of seeing mermaids here in Asia as well. I don't know if I shared that book with you guys. I don't think we went through that book, but I have a book that I don't know if I'm gonna share it in our community, but they talk about these different mermaids in different cultures, these mermaid spirits. So that's not just isolated to every. You'll see that in all cultures. And so I'm letting you know that again, you will see these same stories in the Americas too. We have many stories about magical springs and magical spirits at different springs all over Americas. Different healing springs, different spirits, stuff available for people to seek healing. Now we had these springs all over America where you can go drink from a spring and be healed. That's in your American again. If you don't know your roots, you're gonna fall for anything, and I'm telling you about your roots. Okay. So again, their magic laid the foundation that the nation will later normalize and monetize and forget the origins. American home remedies trace directly back again to us. Cultural icons such as mermaids. Again, I just talked about that. Blues music, the root of nearly all modern American music, emerged from hoodoo soaked landscapes. Our hoodoo was creating music. Hoodoo was mentioned in music. Our magic was creating music. It created hoodoo created damn near the whole black culture. It was our heritage. It was in everywhere. And here you is want to go off somewhere else on somebody else's land and forget about all your heritage and be initiated over there. And yet your ancestors have embedded your heritage, your spiritual heritage into your whole culture. And you don't think that matters. You don't think that matters? I firmly believe it. I'll be me as an ancestor. I'm just gonna say me. I'm gonna use myself as an example. If I know I done left my family, all my magic and all that, all they have to do is start singing the songs, working with the land and all that, and I'm gonna come up and start sharing my magic with them. If I know that's all they got to do or whatever, and then they take it upon themselves and they say, "No, I need to go over here and get this magic over there and be initiated over there, and then I'm gonna come back over here and practice this magic." Me, I'm probably gonna stop that magic. I'm probably gonna hinder that and be like, "Hell no, you forgetting all us. This not gonna work until you do this." And I believe that happens. I do believe that happens. I believe ancestors say, "No, we're not gonna even let you do that until you do this first." I really believe that. I've seen so many people, and usually when I tell them to start venerating their own ancestors and then go and do an ATR, then do the ATR, they get better results. They find out that's the missing component to getting their ATR to flowing the way they need it to. But they're not doing it because a lot of the ATRs, I don't know if they're doing it on purpose, but they say they have had priests tell them, "No, we'll feed your ancestors. We'll venerate your ancestors for you." I'm like, that's not possible because this is a personal journey. That's no that, and most of them are they're stagnated on their journey because that happens. I've talked to 2 or 3 people like that, and usually when I tell them, "Hey, do this. Don't even mess with that yet until you do this. Do this and then go back to that and see how that works for you." And usually they get better results. Can't put the cart before the horse, laugh out loud. They want you to pay them, so they go them and only say you can get hurt if you don't. Yep. So again, and your ancestors already, nobody needs, if you are from Black America, somebody's telling you this, they're lying to you because that's not how the ancestors got it set up for you. Really, you need to do this first before you go over there. And if they're not telling you about asking you about your ancestors, they're not helping align you with your ancestors. That's the first thing they're supposed to do in any ATR. You ain't you really not supposed, they supposed to be talking to your ancestors first, aligning it up for you, seeing if they're okay for you to be initiated in that because they have to say in that. Because this is ancestral spiritual practice. It takes you being in alignment with your ancestors to even work with these deities because they all are ancestral. Okay, they all are ancestral. And you'll see too, especially if you look at how the Americas have got I'm probably gonna pronounce it wrong, espetismo, or you look at some of the things that we have looked at, because we look at umbanda, we look at palo, we look at these because these are diaspora spiritual systems. And when we start looking at hoodoo, we see hoodoo has a lot of those spiritual systems. But when you start looking at those spiritual systems and how they are set up, uh, you start learning a lot about the archetypes that are already in hoodoo that's not African. I hope that makes sense. You'll start seeing you will already have the ancestors like that in your spiritual core. So, such as we went over the Lamadamas. People think that you go and venerate and you go venerate Lamadama. No, Lamadama is already in your spiritual court. She's your big mama. It's one of your big mamas, one of your great grandmas that's already in your spiritual court. Especially if you're a woman, you've already noticed that there's an elder woman that's coming forward giving you wisdom. I've talked to a lot of women like that. When they start their practice, they say this old woman or grandmotherly figure is talking them through magic, have them doing stuff. I've had this experience too. But you already have a lot in your spiritual course. And so when you talk about ancestors, the great way to learn about ancestors is that you got to remember. This is why we go into this. I'm about to get nerdy on you guys. Everything started off as melanated. You have them, you have uh different ranks of ancestors that's in your spiritual cords. Okay? And as you go on with ancestor veneration, you're not going to be able to tell ancestors, some of your most elevated ancestors, you're not going to be able to tell them from angels and saints. Matter of fact, if you ever work with a saint, some of the saints, they start looking like ancestors. You be like, what am I feeling right here? Why is this feeling ancestral? Why is this feeling the more experience that you get in this? Okay? But you some of these you already have in your court. But because you don't know the ancestors on the land and you're not getting to know the spiritual systems there that were created there, you're going off somewhere else. Get to know the spiritual, again, the spirits there on that land because they're there. Look at Mexican magic. Look at some of the diaspora spiritual practices that's already in the America, especially in when you're looking at Brazilian, looking at that diaspora, to how they set that up. When you look at the Caribbean, Obia, if you look at Obia, Obia look just like Hoodoo. They like twin sisters or something. It's amazing when you be like, what the hell am I looking at? What is this? Because it looked the same. Okay. When you look at Hinduism and voodoo, it tripped me out looking at Hinduism and voodoo because it looked the same. And our ancestors adopted Hinduism into hoodoo. But you look at Hinduism, they adopted that because of the moon. They were trying to keep the matriarch system in there because we followed the moon. Hoodoo followed the moon. They were trying to, again, go back to their original roots. Okay, so you do yourself a disservice jumping off, get to know your folks. That's why I say you can't know enough about hoodoo when you start doing it about your ancestors, because if you did, you will let it will happen naturally. Stop listening to people and listen to where your ancestors are carrying you, because if you want to know something, they'll teach you. They don't care. They want, if they think you're ready for it, and if you've been putting in the work, these spirits will teach you. But you got to earn their trust. And even when people get initiated, they get stagnated because they haven't did the work, because they haven't earned these spirits trust. They still gonna have to do the same work. It don't matter. And you have to keep on doing ebos and sacrifices and all that stuff, because again, you ain't applied yourself. You ain't doing the shadow work and none of that stuff. You tell them people before they get over there, they have to do some character work. These spirits want to see you. You got to you better be meaning what you say. Okay? Spirits don't care nothing about your money. You got people paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars and they still stagnated in their spiritual practice, because these spirits, your character got to be right with these spirits. Your word got to be bond. You got to have a relationship with them. They don't care nothing about your money, about your title. You calling yourself no priestess, no nothing. They don't care about that. You ain't there with them. They don't care what you call yourself. They don't care what you put on. If you ain't got no relationship, then you ain't rocking with them. Those spirits ain't moving. I had to tell you like that, but that's the truth. Anybody that work with spirits and they do any type of magic or whatever, they know I'm not lying. They don't care about no costumes. They don't care about your money. They don't care about that. They care about what's coming out your mouth. Is you for real? Is you bagging it up? Is you doing the work? They don't care about nothing else. Don't be fooled. Don't be fooled, y'all. Don't go for the hijacking. I have to tell you. I got right the other day. I'm gonna tell you what happened to me. I'm gonna tell you what happened to me with my ancestors, because I shared this in our meeting. And I know damn well I know better. You understand me? I've been entitled and I've been hoodooing. Ancestors telling me, I was like, I wasn't seeing it. I wasn't seeing my hoodooing working. And so I had got into it with my ancestors. I was like, I ain't even seeing this working. And they kept telling me, this is gonna happen this way. You're gonna look at it this way, but we know you mad because it's not happening the way you want to, but it's already happened. We already done what we was gonna do. But I was mad because it didn't. I want to control everything. And that's one thing about magic. You can't control everything about magic, especially when it comes to your spirits. They're gonna give you the path of least resistance where you can have the most success. Okay, you're gonna see results. Sometimes it's not gonna be the way you want it. You're gonna get the results, but not sometimes how you would picture it. Okay, you have to surrender. This is where you just have to surrender. You got to know it's gonna happen. Okay, you just don't know how it's gonna happen. That's me. That I get caught up in trying to control how it's gonna happen and stuff, and that's where me and the ancestors got into it. So I leaves the house, and I'm mad at the ancestors. This particular day, I said I'm not putting no coffee or nothing on this altar because y'all done pissed me off. I used to put a coffee every day. They get coffee and some type of fruit or muffin. I try to communicate. That's my thing. I like to communicate with my ancestors every day because I need them every day. I need them every day. I can't do nothing without them. That's just me. I don't know how you do it. I got to have you every day. I need to be praying with you, talking to you. I need to have a connection with you every day. I don't need no disconnection from spirit because I don't want nothing to be raggedy. That's just me. Everybody different. Okay. But I got in the morning, I'm there. We're praying. We doing our thing every morning. So this particular morning, I'm upset. I'm upset now. So upset. I'm not giving y'all no coffee, no nothing, because I've been doing my thing. Y'all been doing our thing. So I get up and I get ready to go to the visa place and try to figure out, this visa thing. And so, because that's what we were talking about. That was the who doing. All that was about that. And so I said, I'm gonna go to this visa. I go to the visa place. They don't want to see me. They said, we'll call you. You don't call us. I said, what the hell is this about? I said, what kind of shit is this? So I was like, okay. That's fine. I'm not supposed to do this. I'm going to go somewhere else. That's what happened first. The first place I went to, I ain't never had this before. The driver could not find the place. He said the place was closed down. I said, what the hell is this? It's literally right here on this map. It's right here in the thing saying that this place is open. And here you done pulled up in front of a place. You said that don't exist. You said it ain't here no more. I said, what the hell is this? That never happened. I've never had a driver that couldn't find a place. So he takes me to another place, and them people say, hey, you don't call us, we will call you when we come up with if we want to help you. I'm just like, I said, what is going on here? This how I felt like I was in the Twilight Zone. That's when I was like, this is them. This is y'all doing this. Y'all doing this. I'm not sure. I think this is y'all doing this. So it really confirmed it when I got ready. I said, you know what? I'm just gonna go home because this obviously I'm not. This is not what y'all want me to do. I'm just gonna go home. So I get ready to call a lift or a lift to take me back home. And every time I called the lift to come get me, they couldn't find me. I said, are you serious? Like, I'm literally standing right here. They kept calling me. I was like, what the hell? What's happening? They could not find me. So I had to cancel a lift and reorder another lift. I ordered another lift. They could not find me. They was like, where are you at, ma'am? I'm like, I'm literally standing right here on the main street. I'm literally standing like I got this on. Not they could not find me. And by this time, when I'm texting, they're ringing me. So when they're doing this is using my data. So my data is going down. So by the time I pick up the phone and try to talk to them, I have no more data. I can't do anything. I have to find me a 7-Eleven and top up my data on my phone. I said, I get it. I finally sat down. I started to get upset, but I said, I get it, ancestors. I've learned my lesson. I'm so sorry. I knew it was them. It just that never happened to me before. So I immediately had to repent. I immediately had to apologize. I immediately had to get myself together. I had to admit that I was wrong. And then they told me, hey, do this. This is what we want you to do. We don't want you to do that. That's not how we took care of that. We took care of that like this. Okay? That's how we wanted to do that. You asked us for help. We helped this time. We helped this way. I don't know what you were thinking about. And yeah. And then after they said that, then they start again. The way they talked to me, they start showing me pictures and flashes in my mind of how many times they helped me. And don't do that no more. They start showing me again pictures and flashes because that's how spirits talk. They'll show you images of things that they have done. I hurry up and gather myself together. Okay? You want to do what they ask you to do. But I hurry up and collected myself. But they hurry up and got in my ass when I thought I knew everything. That just crumbled right before my eyes. I said, what the hell? I hurry up and came back and apologized. Hurry up, got myself together, put their coffee on there, gave them what they needed, and continued to apologize and talk about what was going on with me and why I'm feeling like that. It's like, we know, we know. We ain't never left you. You just, hey, calm down. Everything working. Everything you're doing is working. So this probably not the way. You can't control this. Once you give it to us, let us do it. We don't need your help. Okay, so I learned our relationship now has gotten really, really close. Okay, it's gotten really, really close. But I learned something. Okay, so listen to your ancestors. I knew something definitely was going on. Cause that's never happened. How can you not find me? We're literally on the GPS. I'm literally standing right here. I don't know what else how to show you. I knew it was them. And they quickly let me know, no, we have not left you, but we had to show you something because you don't talk to us like that, okay? We know we doing. We don't need your help. We know you want it to be that way, but that's not the best thing for you. Okay? We got you doing this. This is what we want you to do. We keeping you safe. This is why we want doing it this way. Your hoodoo is working. Your magic is working. Everything's working. Okay? You said you wanted this work to work. It's worked. We did it. And they did it. Okay? Is it gonna always look the way you want it to look? Probably not, because the spirit again, they're gonna take the least resistance. It's gonna be in your best interest. Okay? They're gonna tilt things in your favor. And that's exactly what they did. They did the work. Yeah, they chastised me. And I wasn't even mad. Once I calmed down, I said, I calmed down because I was like, okay, now I'm stranded here. I'm stranded here. Uh, I don't have any more data. They said, walk down the street. It's a 7-Eleven down the street. Girl, we ain't left you nowhere. And you ain't stranded because you still got money. You got money in the bank. What you talking about? This is your problem. You ain't focused on what we done. You focused on the wrong thing. That's what's trick you crossing your own self up with this crazy stuff. And so we having this conversation in my head. And I said, "Ooh, we ancestors, I don't want." I saw 7-Eleven because 7-Eleven's everywhere. That's where you have to top up your phone. I'm walking down the street, and I said, "Oh, ancestors, I don't want to cross that street. You know these folks drive. These Thailand drivers here, honey. When these folks drive, they drive. You understand me? You ain't never seen no driving until you come here to Thailand. These folks drive. You understand me? These folks drive." That's the only thing I can say. And I said, I don't want to cross that street, ancestors, because them cars be driving crazy. I don't want to go over there. They said, girl, look over here. It's 7-Eleven right by you. I looked to my left, it was 7-Eleven sitting right, standing right by me. Wasn't even 2 or 3 blocks from where I was. They said, go in there, top up your phone. And thanks to us, you got plenty of money to get what you need. And you sitting up here complaining because that what? Girl, we better not hear you say all the stuff the stuff that we done did. Girl, you better be quiet. You ain't in no strain. You ain't been in no strain since you left America. You ain't been in no strain not one time. And you said, girl, you better go to thinking. You better, and all these images and pictures. And then that's when I had my wine dang doodle, my heart open, and here I am crying at my altar and crying to them. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I was so selfish. How selfish could I be? Oh my God, I'm just as ragged as I can be. I had to repent. I had to repent. Okay? I'm not perfect either. Okay? I had forgot they're never gonna, and hoodoo does not work without ancestor veneration. I wouldn't do it without it. Don't nothing is gonna shake and move without the ancestors. I don't care what you do. I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you're doing. I've just seen it. Here I is. I had to go back to my magic. It don't work. I keep them front and center. Even when I'm praying, I'm doing some work. My ancestors are standing there with me. When I'm opening my mouth, so are they. They amplify my voice. They amplify my magic. They make sure that it's clear that it's going to work. They make sure that it's clear. They make sure, I'm right in these spiritual streets. It don't move. I don't know nobody who's doing magic without a spirit. It just doesn't work that way. Okay? Black women sustained entire communities. Their magic laid the foundation that nations would later normalize and monetize off of. What if my ancestors don't believe? I don't know what that means. You'll have to give me more insight on that. Cultural icons such as mermaids, we just talked about that. Okay. Again, it we saw it in our music, we saw it in our fashion, we saw it in our food. It was all about our healing. Okay. And a lot of this came from black women. Hoodoo informed birth practices, death rights, emotional regulation, communal justice long before it was named or studied. We use hoodoo for everything. We use hoodoo for healing. We use hoodoo for again, even psycho treating the mind. Okay, what you think them spiritual baths is for? What do you think some of those scriptures are for? Again, we were again use a psycho spiritual treatment as well. You'll start seeing that once you start doing your using your baths, especially when you are using your baths and your herbs and your roots, you'll see the psycho spiritual components to hoodoo. Because I worked heavy. I was like, oh my gosh, once I started doing the baths, it seemed like more ancestral knowledge start coming in because water holds memories. Okay, once I start again praying over those waters and using those herbs and stuff, my mind opened up a lot more because not only are you cleansing your energy, you're also opening up your mind to receive more spiritual information once you start using the spiritual technology of your ancestors. You instantly come in contact. When you do what your ancestors do, you start to invoke your ancestors because we're doing what they do. They're already in you. You're opening your mind up to communicate with them. What she say? Like I'm the only one in the family into hoodoo. Are you though? You think you're the only one? I thought that too, and start until I started looking at my family and it said, hell, they doing hoodoo and wasn't even calling it that. Are you the only one doing hoodoo though? Really? You think they ain't doing hoodoo? It's no way to get away from it. I don't know. We do it unconsciously. You think you ain't doing hoodoo, but when you start working with your ancestors and you erect your altars and start working with elevated ancestors, again, they'll start showing you images and pictures in your mind where your family was doing hoodoo and didn't even know it. They wasn't calling it that. You got somebody else calling it that, but you lived it. So you don't think it's hoodoo. I lived it, so I didn't think it's hoodoo. I didn't know it was hoodoo until I started reading more about our culture and how it got embedded in there. I was like, oh my gosh, we always doing hoodoo and didn't know it. Okay, you've been doing it. You got people right now. I just seen a video of black people in the church making conjure oil, but they gonna call they making it blessing oil. These folks is all in the church dressed up in they look clothes, they Sunday clothes, the ushers or whoever they was, and they was in there with herbs and stuff. The preachers in there doing conjure, praying all over the oils, and they making oil in the church. But if I was to tell them people they doing conjure hoodoo, honey, they called me the devil. They said, "Girl, you going to hell? That's not what we doing." And they straight in there conjure, making conjure oils. But if you tell them that, and you got to remember they don't like that because people was trying to go back and we talked about this and we talked about Memphis Hoodoo. They were trying to lock them up for that. They were sending them to jail. So when you're telling them that, they're pissing them off. You're re-traumatizing them by calling it that because they didn't call it that. This is a different term. That term was orchestrized to them. So no, they wasn't using that. They don't want to be called that. That's not that what they is. They call that the Lord's work, and that's what that is. And you better not call it nothing else. They don't want to hear that, and they think you making fun of them. Orchestra. That was something terrible to them. That scared them. Okay, you got people trying to send them to jail because they were practicing hoodoo. Go read the history of Memphis, and this was in there. They were sending them to jail for this, and then here you come with your little young mind. You think you know everything. Okay? You doing hoodoo. You done pissed them off. Nah, that ain't what we doing. This ain't witchcraft. Because that's what the folks is calling it to them. Don't call it that with the, I don't know if they forgot or they were so afraid and traumatized by it, they made sure to only call that Christian. I don't know if it got, because when I read what happened to them in Memphis, as we went through there and how they was orchestrated about hoodoo, you know, and how people telling them they were serving the devil and witchcraft. I mean, they had whole newspaper articles on this, y'all. They were sending our ancestors, they were helping healing their community, getting spirits off them, doing work for them. And here the police is kicking in the door and disrupting their practice. And you think that you gonna roll up on them and tell them you doing hoodoo and they gonna say, yeah, that's what we doing? Hell no, they not gonna tell you that. They're gonna say, "Now that's Christian. You the devil," because that was done to. Don't do that to them. Don't do it to them. You do better when you see them doing it. Ask them to show you. You know what they're doing, but don't you call it that, okay? Because when you look at what they went through, you'll understand why they're saying it's not like that. That's not. They don't want to be called that. You got somebody else calling it hoodoo. They didn't call it that. And they're calling it that to orchestrize them because I've never heard anyone in my family ever call it hoodoo. I've been to root workers. I did some work. I told you with my mama's boyfriend. Not one time hoodoo come out their mouth. It was all called. My mama said, they know that stuff. That's it. I've never heard the term. This is a new term. Okay? And if anything, they're going to be calling it the Lord works. It's going to be hiding under Christianity. But you best believe it when you see it, you know it ain't Christian. And these people praying over handkerchiefs and stuff, putting this stuff in our coats, that's not Christian. They're making prayer pins and pinning them in our coats. That's not Christian. These people are talking in tongues and dancing around. That's not Christian. That's voodoo. But what did they do? They made it the Holy Ghost. They made it Christian. But none of that is Christian. That is the ancestral spiritual practices that's designated to the black church. Now, did other people start copying us? Yeah, you can go to other churches and they doing a whole copy black people worship. But that was designated to the black church. That is ancestral. And if you was to see a voodoo ceremony and you see what's going on with the Holy Ghost and stuff in the black church, it looks identical. I said it. But is they gonna call it that? No, let them call it what they want to. But they're doing that. I think they're doing that too because they were so afraid. They knew they couldn't call it that. They had it in their with this. We're not gonna, you know, they're not gonna call it that. That's my thing on it. Some of them are traumatized and some of them forgot. Okay. But you know when you see them do it, so you know that ain't Christian when you see it, but don't tell them that. Let them keep that. They're doing that to protect themselves because somebody told them that was evil and called it something else and told them it was wicked, and you doing the same thing somebody did to them, and they're gonna be mad at you because that's not what that is. You understand what I'm saying to you? Now, we have embraced the term hoodoo. They have not because they have been orchestrated under that name. Just like women, it was a bad thing to be called a witch, but now we embrace, okay, I'm a witch, bring it on. But back then, that was a horrible thing to be called. But now we embrace these terms, and back then, you would dare not want those terms on you. Okay, yep, teachable. Mm-hmm. Like wearing white, going to the creek. They still practice. They're not gonna tell you that. They didn't call it that. You got outside people telling us what we're doing. We just had our own way that we express our spiritual practices. It was very different from them, and it was very. Our ancestors had again been synchronized into Christianity. The whole thing, we absorbed that up because Christianity doesn't work without our ancestor practice. We already knew that. You know, where in the hell it work if you got to enslave people and beat people over the head with it and do the kind of stuff? You know where that thing work. You understand me? So this, since they wanted to do that, we said, okay, we're gonna make it work. We're gonna show you how it work, and we're gonna use it on you. And that's what we did. Because they weren't doing they would in no way it work if you gotta put your hands on people. We was making it work and we didn't have to put our hands on you. We all we have to do is open our mouth and put you down. That's all that was happening. Ain't no way that work if you still gotta put your hands on people. Am I making sense to you? How do I learn if I don't go to church? I would say find you a good. We have a community spiritual roots where we talk about all things hoodoo. Get you a good mentor. Start learning as much as you can. Reading, educating yourself. That's how you learn. Reading and educating yourself. I do mentoring in our community, but for the most part, a lot of us want to be entertained. We want somebody to come here and tell us everything. You need to be somewhere quiet, educating yourself, putting this knowledge in your head so you can start opening yourself to your ancestors and they start sharing things with you. That's how it starts. You ain't sitting down nowhere being quiet, hushing your mouth and reading about your because these spirits watching you. They watching where you spend your time. Oh, she reading the book. Oh, she really into. She really. They really interested in this. Oh, okay. They're not playing. They're gonna keep on reading about this. Oh, and they're gonna erect the altar. Oh, they ready for us. These spirits watch you. You can try to fool me, but you can't fool no spirit. You can't fool no spirit. You can tell me, Miss Penn, I've been doing this and that, but this gonna tell. The spirit gonna tell you, it's gonna show up in your life how your relationship is with these spirits. You could tell me anything, you could say you could be doing all this, but it's gonna show with your spiritual practice. And that's where a lot of people want to skip. They think hoodoo is some type of microwave thing that you get online and start learning spells and you do tomorrow. And that's not it. You're gonna cross yourself up and get yourself messed up doing it. Because you don't understand the practice, but you want to do a spell. And then you scared of spirits but want to do a spell. Make it make sense. Don't make sense, but that's what I see. Okay. As hoodoo developed, it was not hidden from black communities. It was embedded within them. It functioned as a psychic infrastructure. a shared language of symbols, signs, remedies, and spiritual cause and effect. Everyone knew what a root doctor was. Everyone understood the power of a charm, cross conditions, and protection bags. Hoodoo offered folk wisdom, moral instruction, psychological reassurance, and practical solutions. You see that too when they talked about how John and how he would use his wit, his wittiness, and cleverness, not to get drawn into negative confrontations with the colonizer. It addressed the needs of enslaved people and later free black communities by integrating spiritual direction, emotional grounding, physical endurance, and medicinal treatment into one coherent system. It defined the cultural uniqueness of the old black belt nation and was often passed down through bloodlines, sometimes through experience of being called. Spirit possession, ancestral visitation, and prophetic dreaming were not anomalies. They were expected. This happened all the time. You even have too, when that stuff that went on with Hitler, I think y'all can find this in our Hoodoo Bible magic book. But there's even a sermon in there. It's called the Hitler sermon, where the preacher goes in. They're doing a whole ritual on how to eliminate this whole. It was so magnificently done, but it's a whole the whole sermon in the way the members respond to the preacher, to what the preacher is saying, is a whole ceremony against what was going on over there with the Jews. The whole, you see that. You have whole sermons. Some preachers did whole sermons, and it was a hoodoo ritual. They were creating whole sermons, and when the whole congregation was participating in the ceremony and ritual. Did you know that? And they would do sermons. It was a whole ritual with the church music going, with the people saying amen, to the people humming. All of that was a ceremonial ritual. Again, getting them in contact with their ancestors. Go back and read that Hoodoo Bible magic book. I think they have that sermon. If I'm not mistaken, that sermon is in that book, and how they set up the sermon. That's a whole ceremony and a ritual. Okay. Let's see here. The deep cultural presence of hoodoo extended beyond ritual into performance, humor, and popular expression. Richard Pryor was famous for the Conjure Woman monologues, and they were not exaggerations, they were recognitions. His reference to insects, bodily fluids, unconventional materials, and alternative forms of payment reflect the realities of the old tradition hoodoo, especially on plantations where money was scarce but spiritual labor was not. Conjurers accepted food, goods, favors, and services because hoodoo functioned within a gift economy rooted in survival rather than profit. So you have Richard Pryor even talking about uh again his relationship with hoodoo. You have, what's his name, the guitarist, musician, Robert Johnson, talks about hoodoo. And our latest movie, they talked about again hoodoo in centers. You're going to see it. It's front and center, and I see it so much in any magical system in America. It makes me think when I look at that, because I don't know a witch that practice in America, or anyone that practice any type of magic in America cannot bring up their magic without talking about hoodoo. I show you that in every book. They bring it up. They bring it up. They bring it up. And I have to believe that hoodoo was the forerunner to everyone in understanding folk magic, because it is everywhere. They gotta talk about it. And when I say ancestors, why they do that? They say, ancestors, why are they doing this? Why they keep talking about our stuff? Like, they say because it works. They know it works. It absolutely works. They can't understand their stuff without talking about our stuff. That's how they understand their stuff. They know it works. Don't get mad. They have to talk about our stuff in order to understand how they stuff work. So I have to believe that hoodoo was the forerunner and probably the oldest practicing folk magic in America. I got to think that because it's too prominent. It's everywhere. I can't hear everybody talk about it. And I don't know why you would want to go over there. That didn't make no sense. I said, why would I want to go over there and be initiated somewhere else? And hoodoo was saving people's life. We got liberation, we got freedom, we got civil rights. It gave our ancestors the courage and the power to march. It was getting justice for us. You know, why would I want to? Why would I think something else is more powerful than my ancestors? Not that that the voodoo or the Risha don't have any medicine to offer. They do, but that medicine is not going to do you any good if you don't understand your roots. You don't understand your roots, it ain't gonna do you no good. Hoodoo influence did not end with slavery or folk memory. It extended well into the 20th century, beyond even the Black consciousness movement began to look explicitly towards Africa. The language of juju invoked by Black arts movement co-founder Larry Neal. I love what he said here. He said what it was not metaphorical. His call to work critical juju on those who corrupted Black culture echo ancestral understandings of spiritual accountability and protection. Yet, even as hoodoo language resurfaced, the Black nationalists thought the tradition itself remained guarded. Our ancestors were clear that hoodoo was not for everyone. It is a closed practice. He was very clear about that. It is closed. I can't say that enough. It is closed. Hoodoo is closed. I gotta come here and say this again because you got the people saying they working with enslaved Black children. He's a paranormal investigator and he is working with enslaved Black children. Say it ain't so. Ancestor, please fix it. Please fix it. Ancestor, please fix it. It's closed. And then you got the MAGA people saying they want to do hoodoo, ma'am. And y'all still doing regular stuff, and you want to pick up hoodoo? You gonna cross yourself up. That's what's gonna happen there. That ain't gonna turn out good. I can't see that turning out good. You think you're slick by going to these old plantations and tricking these spirits into working for you. It's disgusting, it's deplorable. I hope the ancestors do something with you. I sure do. It's disgusting. Disgusting. Even in the even you gonna corrupt the spirit. Y'all already corrupted the spiritual science by doing this stuff with these children and all that sort of stuff. And you gonna go on to come over here and do that over there. Oh, it just I can't stand it, y'all. I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. It's the audacity for me. And then you want something. I would never, boy. No. Okay, they're doing it right here, making live streams about it, talking about how you have these enslaved children doing your bidding, and then telling other people how to do it. Remind me of kind of that show on Love Country when them spirits was still in that house and that man was still trying to rule those spirits, and she had to get those ancestors to get that crazy man up out of there. That's what's gonna happen to you. And I hope the workers that's working on it now do something with. That's what's gonna happen to you. Use your own ancestors. Why won't you use your own ragged ass ancestors to do your work? Why would you use enslaved Black children to do that? But you don't want to use because you know your ancestors ain't boy. You know they ain't worth a quarter. You know they ain't worth nothing. They ain't gonna do nothing for you. They ain't even do nothing for themselves. So why would they do something for you? They don't even like you. They ain't like themselves. Well, why would they do something for you? And you want to come over here and do that kind of stuff? Ooh, honey, I hope the ancestors do something with you. Fix it, ancestors. Fix it. Fix it. The audacity of y'all. You want to enslave them even in death. You want to have them doing ragged stuff for you. Oh, honey, it just burns me up, ancestors. It does. I don't like it. I don't like it. And I pray that I can't see that turning out. I hope some Annabelle stuff happen. That needs to happen with you. Because you don't believe fat meat is greasy. And you think our ancestors some type of play pretty. And you forgot these are ancestors. These are the same ancestors that didn't mind giving your ancestors something to make them have a forever sleep. These ancestors didn't care about eye for eye, two for two. You don't know what you messing with. It ain't pretty. And it probably ain't nothing pretty gonna happen to you doing that. And that ticked me off. They actually making a live stream on how to use enslave. He's going to paranormal sites on plantations where there are little black children who have passed away, carrying them home with them and have them doing their bidding, his bidding. Did you understand what I just said to you? No respect for spirit at all. They think they can control spirit. That's what always it always backfire in their occult practices. They always backfire on them. Just like they got into this occult now trying to control them spirits and all that stuff. Look how it's backfiring. This is what happens when they go into the occult and try to restrain these spirits and work with these spirits because you don't know what you're doing. You don't even respect the spiritual realm. You don't even respect life. That's what happens. You see what happens? You get a lot of them to go up in the cult, try to control these spirits, and that's what happens. They don't try to have a relationship with these spirits. They try to dominate these spirits, and that's what happens. And if they can't dominate them, they want to embody these spirits and wreak havoc on other people. That's what you got going there. And you don't want to even imagine the spirit that's over America now. Now, I want to ask some practitioners, do y'all feel that spirit? Do you feel a difference in your magic? Because that's the energy that's over that place. I want to ask a lot of practitioners, have y'all felt that over there? Don't you feel like a little bit with your magic is something going on with it? I felt it. I don't know if y'all ain't heard a lot of practitioners talking about it, but that thing is over that country. You should be able to feel that. Okay, you should be able to feel that. But them people, hun, that's what they're doing. So they were very clear that hoodoo is closed. I can't be more close. I can't be more adamant to that. Now, if you're trying to convince yourself, pair of color people, that it ain't closed, I beg you the difference. Go look at the Epstein files. That's why it's closed. That's why it's closed. That's the kind of stuff that was done to us. That's why it's closed. And now you're doing it to each other. They doing it to you now. Okay? That's why it's closed. If you wondering why it's closed, that's why it's closed. That's what happened to our ancestors. They had been doing stuff like that to our ancestors. They had been doing experiments and all sorts of regular stuff. They did it to them first because they figured they wasn't categorized as humans, so they felt like they could do that. Now they're gonna do it. Now they're gonna make it okay to do it to women and children. Now they don't care what color you are, and now you're clutching your pearls. How dare I can't believe this unthinkable. Where they were doing the unthinkable stuff to us. But now it's unthinkable. Now they're doing it to you. It trips me out. This is the unthinkable stuff they was doing to us, but now that they're doing to you, this unbelievable. But yet you read about this in the books and all this stuff, what they did to us. But now that it's happening to you, you know, you can't believe it's happening. Yeah, we can. People look like me, they can, because it happened. They do it to they never stop doing it to us. They never stop. Shouldn't surprise you at all. Okay. Historically, hoodoo developed in phases. Its first phase emerged under enslavement, extended through emancipation. This was hoodoo as a survival technology operating in secrecy and necessity. Its second phase began after Reconstruction and continued through the World War II. and marked by commercialization, external controls. That's when people found out about hoodoo, you wouldn't think that magic, that's why I say there's no way that they were already practicing magic. Because when they found out black people had our own magic, everybody started coming up with these conjure oils and stuff. I'm not lying. I am not lying. When they found out black people, they found out that we had our own magic, people start pharmacies and all this stuff start selling fake products and conjure oils and stuff. And they do it right now to this very day. They'll use a hoodoo spin to sell their conjure oils and things like that. You'll see that right now. They weren't selling that stuff like that. Witches was not selling no conjure oils. They weren't selling none of that stuff like that until they found out about hoodoo, and then all of them started selling conjure oils and herbs, and all of a sudden now they selling this stuff. And that's why I have to tell about these witches too. Look, y'all wasn't doing that at first. Y'all wasn't doing that at first. All of a sudden, everybody witches, and now they selling herbs and stuff. Now they know about hoodoo. Now that's why I say hoodoo had to be the forerunner to this. Because if y'all had magic and stuff before that, why not all of a sudden hoodoo come on the scene? Y'all want to out and start, practicing now. Follow, again, hijacking started. Hijacking started to happen. Tariq was selling it too. Let the answer see. Yep. Tariq was selling it too. Okay. All of a sudden they start selling this stuff. They weren't selling that stuff at first. That's why I tell you, when you look at hoodoo, is probably the oldest folk magic, or even magic they ever heard of in the Americas. It's got to be the way y'all acted when it start selling these fake supplies and stuff. I don't think y'all ever heard of that. And then all of a sudden, they start going into spiritualism and start doing these seances and stuff. But they didn't make any progress in it until they came in contact with black people. And sometimes they didn't want black people to be in their spiritualism groups because black people were natural. They say we were natural mediums. They were trying to learn, but we were more advanced. They didn't want us to be in their spiritualism groups. That's why you got what his name? We just talked about Randolph Pascal went in there and advanced it. Many of the occult organizations you see today, they wouldn't have many advancement without Pascal, Randolph Pascal, because he was already doing spiritualism. They didn't know anything about that. Black people knew that we were already spiritual, but they didn't want us in our group. But we used that as an advantage, and we created misas and things like that to start practicing our own spiritual practices. So you would see a lot of spiritualism in our spiritual practices, and they were mad. But once we start seeing them doing spiritualism, it gave us the okay to be more comfortable, to be more open about our practice. But we had already been practicing it before them, and they did not want black people in that because they were just trying to develop that. And even when we did get in that, we surpassed them in it because we are natural mediums. We can naturally talk to spirits. That's why when you come to me and you telling me I can't do it, I can't do it, you stop playing with me. We not doing that. I know you can do this. You do it and you don't know you can do it. Yes, you can. They knew this. They put this in their books. They said, no, we don't want them in because they were advanced. It scared them that we were advanced, so advanced with them, with it. So they did not want us in their groups. Okay. You'll see this documented in one of our books. Hoodoo emerged often as mediated by outsiders who were not part of the tradition itself. While old traditions, black belt hoodoo continued to function organically within the black communities. Commercial supply houses and all male orders practice increasingly reshape public perception of hoodoo into something standardized and detachable from its cultural roots. And now there you got, all sorts of people want to pick up hoodoo that don't look like us. You can't tell me if you had your own stuff, and if your own stuff was working, why would you want to? Why would you want to mess with our stuff? Why is our stuff so fascinating to you? You can see them now. They don't do it because it don't work. They do it because it absolutely works. It's so many. I have so many to refer you to. It's so many. But I'll give you some recommendations at the end of this, Lacole. The second phase also intensified the divergence between the conjurer, the preacher, W.E. Du Bois. So now you have W.E. Du Bois talking about his relationship with hoodoo. He himself acknowledged that the earliest black churches were not fully Christian institutions, but adaptations of, again, indigenous spiritual systems. They outright tell you that. He tell you they was doing ceremonies in the church. He documented this. That's why I don't know what you're talking about, black churches. This was already in there. He described plantation religious life as a mingling of, again, indigenous rites later veneered with Christianity through missionary pressure and expectancy. In other words, hoodoo and forms of voodoo were already present in the church. He admits that. He said voodoo was already in the church. Back then, they was calling it voodoo. They didn't call it hoodoo. They called it voodoo in the church. That's why I say hoodoo is a made up thing. They ain't call it that, but the people, you have him, W.E. Du Bois, he's calling it voodoo. He's saying it was voodoo in the church. That's what he's saying. He looked like us. That's what he's saying. Okay? In other words, he's saying, okay, voodoo were already present in the church before Christianity became dominant. It was already in there. They was already having voodoo services. This historical reality explains why voodoo spirits still surface for those who remain long enough within hoodoo tradition. Voodoo is gonna run up on you. You gonna start seeing the black men at the crossroads that they call Papa Legba. But in voodoo, we for some reason in hoodoo, we love spirits not having a name. Because soon as we start using voodoo archetypes and name to learn hoodoo, folks in hoodoo get mad because they want hoodoo to be Christian. And hoodoo is not Christian. And now you can name stuff. Then you couldn't name stuff. It's okay to name it now. Back then we couldn't name it. We can name it now. Okay? We gonna update it. We gonna upgrade it. That's what we do to our spiritual practice. They never stay the same. They are meant to be updated and upgraded. It's not like religion to keep you stuck and bind behind. But that's what you want, and that's not it. This ain't it. Our ancestors had a science. It evolved. It grew. It don't stay stuck. We go with it's a nature-based religion. As it changes, shifts, so does our spiritual practice. Now, if you want to stay stuck and all that stuff, you keep you some religion, you stay stuck there. But these were meant to change and evolve you. This is technology. This ain't stagnation. And some of y'all get mad because hoodoo don't look Christian, or you get mad. Yeah, you and some of you are comfortable with hoodoo looking Christian, and hoodoo ain't Christian. Hoodoo is the power in Christianity. Christianity has no power in it without hoodoo. Our ancestors understood that. And if you think that there's some power in Christianity without hoodoo, I don't know what to tell you. If it had any power in it, folks wouldn't have to put their hands on you to get you to believe in it. They wouldn't have to threaten to unalive you and stuff. If it truly worked, they could use it. They can talk to their God if they putting their hands on you, getting some stuff done. That's what our ancestors did. They call on their ancestors and the God of their ancestors to move something, and then that Christianity worked. I'm telling you that was the power in the Christianity. It wasn't the Christianity that was working. It was the hoodoo and the ancestors in it that was making Christianity work. I said it, get mad about it. I don't give a damn. That's why it ain't working now. That's why you brainwashed now, because they put Freemasons and infiltrated the church with Freemasons and stuff and all that cult stuff. That's why you're sick in the mind now and you're confused and you're giving all your money away and they done turn into some vampires, just just leaking all your just sucking all the energy out of you. None of your prayers been answered. That's what's going on there. When you took hoodoo out the church, you took power out the church. That's why you got people flying on cables now and riding on hoverboards and stuff like that in the church and putting their hands on people and doing inappropriate things in the church because they took hoodoo out the church and they infiltrated with Freemasonry and occult knowledge and stuff. These folks just told you they was using the church, some of these folks to do the PDF stuff. You see the PDF stuff happen in Catholicism. I'm just telling you. The power of, again, the power in our heritage and who are has always been hoodoo. Without hoodoo, we wouldn't have made the strides that we made. We wouldn't have had the spiritual power that we had. That's what I'm telling you. It is embedded all throughout our culture. Okay? So he's letting you know. He said he's letting you know, hey, that was up in there. The historically reality explains why voodoo spirits still remain. You will run into them. Slave narratives repeatedly attest to hoodoo's roles as a protective force. Frederick Douglass credited a conjure man, Sandy Jenkins, with giving him an enchanted root that emboldened him during a violent confrontation with a slave breaker. Henry Bibb sought supernatural protection from a conjurer to shield him from abuse. Henry Clay Bruce described enslaved communities hiring a conjurer to prevent forced relocation, believing spiritual intervention blocked the slaveholders' plans. These practices offer more than superstition, they restore agency in a system designed to annihilate it. So hoodoo was saving lives. It was getting justice. It's more than just magic. So when you come up here with your pretty little thing and you think you finna put people in plates and bowls or whatever the hell y'all think y'all be doing, and you think this just magic, I look at you like you crazy. Because something is wrong with you. You don't understand what you're doing. Black Americans relied on charms, amulets, spiritual preparations for protection. Lewis Hughes described carrying a leather bag filled with roots and other items believed to prevent whippings. Clara Walker recounted a conjure crafting a mud effigy of a cruel master, inflicting pain through sympathetic magic until justice was satisfied. Hundreds of such accounts demonstrate that hoodoo functioned as a system of spiritual justice and psychological defense when no legal recourse existed. We had no choice but to use it, but you want to call it, it was the culture. It was us. It's our heritage. The New Orleans spiritual tradition, the integration of Christianity and supernaturalism, was openly acknowledged. The churches drew from a variety of culture and religious sources, including Roman Catholicism, Caribbean voodoo, Italian American folk traditions, and African American conjure and hoodoo. African religious practices became part of the public panic as newspapers such as Memphis Daily Appeal ran headlines warning the white public about threats of hoodoo and conjure doctors. They did this to us. And you want your ancestors to admit to you, to come out and tell you, yeah, we doing hoodoo. They ran articles in the paper like I told you. The article of voodooism, African fetishism, worship among Memphis Negroes, informed the public about growing numbers of evil practices of African based religions. The following year, the public was warned about voodooism. Its votaries in the Memphis alarming on the increase. It had become very apparent that the practice of African healing and religious traditions frightened outsiders. This is what they did to them. Yes, outlawed them. They had to go to court and all that stuff to be able to practice and use their spiritual practice and healing modalities in their community. They had to go to court for that. And you want them to admit that they're doing hoodoo to you. after all of that? You want them to really admit that to you? You think that they're going to be forthcoming about what they're doing? Now, what I do see too, you'll see in these books, you got some of our ancestors that hated that our ancestors did this. They wanted to be more like the colonizer. And so what you have is you have these intellectual people in our black community going to these prestigious colonized colleges, some of them, and they felt like that we need to stop that to bring us out of our ignorance and superstition. We need to worship more like the colonizer. And so you have a lot of them. Again, a lot of them was in the sororities and the fraternities. We're talking about Boule now. You having them becoming ministers and all that, moving out hoodoo in the church because it's backwards, it's ugly. They don't want it in there. But really, we needed it in there because it was keeping everything righteous. That was the closest to God as we can get is to our ancestors. And by kicking that out, again, you bringing the devils back up in there. You understand me? That's what happened. Because you'll see that in one of our books. I think you're going to see that in the Gullah book. And I think it's in one of the other, I think Conjuring of America. You see that in there. You see black people saying, "Oh, we hate that's in there. They're not helping us get any better." I mean, it's just that backwards, barbaric stuff. We don't want that in the church. We want to be more like the colonizer. We evolve now. When girl, that stuff thing ain't got no power in it. That's why our ancestors knew it didn't have no power. Ain't no way ain't got nobody. It got power when the people slapping you upside your head, whipping you, putting their hands on you, talking about what their God told them to do. If your God told you to do this, why ain't your God doing it? Why ain't you doing it? Here we is praying in the corner, using they same words to put them on their back. Because our God was doing it. Our God meant that. It worked because our God worked. Yeah, you had them going. They actually planned. They made plans to move hoodoo out of the church. They knew it was embedded in the church. So now you got the Freemasonries coming in there. They're opting in. They're not trading their magic because now they can go to the lodge and practice their magic. But they're not going to bring. And if they do bring the magic in the church, they're going to practice the occult magic on the church to brainwash the church. That's what happened. Because many of these preachers are Freemasons and they can't say they not doing this. I just showed you. I take you right to the books where they have written and showed you that they are doing magic in the lodges. And the Freemasons are doing magic. I tell you that. I show it to you. So they lying if they saying that it ain't doing it because they doing it. And you got these same people in the sororities and fraternities that are in these occult organizations. And they're the ones saying that black people ain't, but you doing that. You doing all types of regular stuff in the occult thing. They got y'all doing all kinds of stuff. Okay? That's why we looking at these PDF stuff now. That's what they do in these occult, a lot of them doing these Freemason occult organizations. They doing that. But then these people, they done brainwashed our people that what we're doing barbaric and all that kind of stuff. And here we is trying to stay as close to God as we can get. And they come in here dragging the devil in here with them. And brainwashing the people, keeping them disconnected from their ancestors and from the land, from their power. Because they telling you that barbaric. They said it. They have recorded them doing this. I'm not making this up. The ancestors already told me this before I even ran up on this. I've been telling you that I believe before I even ran into this that the Freemasons, the church, the black church was compromised by Freemasonry, and Freemasonry eased hoodoo at the church. You even have a man in Memphis that got Voodoo Village there. I forget his name was Doc something. I can't remember his name. But he's in Memphis. He was an occultist. He came out of the occult lodge and he created a whole community where he took his occult knowledge that he learned and he started teaching other people. You're not supposed to do that. They don't want you doing that. They want you to stay whatever in there. They want you to stay in there. But he didn't do that. He created a whole church and started teaching people how to heal themselves. He took the knowledge and he started teaching everybody with it. And now you have a place in Memphis called Voodoo Village. It's called Voodoo Village. Okay, that's what most the colonizers gonna call you, is they're gonna accuse you of doing voodoo or hoodoo. Why? Because they know voodoo is ancestral. Voodoo just means spirit, and it ain't evil. And they ain't scared because it don't work. They scared because it work, and it believes in righteousness. They seen what it do in Haiti. They don't want you to have no connections with it. And if you to get your hands and start doing your hoodoo or your voodoo right now, you know where in the hell they'll be getting away with what they're doing right now. No way. Because the ancestors be front and center. There'll be a lot of Nat Turner and stuff going on. There'll be a lot of Haiti, Nepal and stuff going on. That's what big happened. Okay. They wouldn't be able to stuff get right real quick. There would be a lot of boycotting going on, a lot of sitting down. The whole country be shut down. The whole country be shut down. If we had the same ancestors that we had then, if we had them same ancestors now, that whole country be shut down. Because them people was righteous. They'll make sure that whole country sit down. I think they would be able even to convince some of the pale people to do it too with what is happening now. Because our ancestors would have made them shut down that whole country. That whole country would be sitting down right now. Their foot would be on folks' neck. They would not be playing with them. They need that same kind of energy. Should have never stopped. We didn't got soft. We didn't got soft. We didn't got integrated and got soft with these people. We got to get our righteousness back. Okay? Gotta get that back. Be for real with these people. Don't be a pile. Put your foot down with these people. You said you're gonna do this. I'm not going to work. I'm not clocking in. I don't give a damn about your money. Matter of fact, since this stuff's so expensive, see, I don't believe in no stealing. No, I'm going. It's a damn shame I have to go up in here and take this because y'all done made this so expensive. No, I'm not paying rent. I can't do any of that. I'm not paying anything. I'm not buying anything. I'm going to get this. I can't steal anything. I be stealing something that's luxurious. You can't steal nothing that you need, food and shit like that. That's not stealing. I'm getting shit I need. Y'all gonna make this, y'all corporations, y'all better think about that. Y'all need to think about it. So when you see me up here taking stuff, I'm not stealing. I need this shit. Okay? I'm not taking anything. Now I'm not paying no gas, no water. This just is natural resources. Why would I pay that? You gotta get like that. You gotta change the whole script on them. Why would I need money for that? I don't need no money for that. I'm coming to get that. You can call it stealing, whatever. You can't steal nothing that I need. These are natural human resources. You're going to have to think revolutionary on a psychopath. Y'all ain't ready for that. That's how it would be. Man, I'm not stealing. I'm not paying nothing. I'm not buying nothing. I don't give a damn about that money. I'm coming to get that. Now I can't steal nothing that I need. I can't steal nothing I need. You the one made it like this. A damn shame. You done made it impossible for me to buy this shit. You have declared economic war on me. Now I'm coming for that, player. I'm not paying for nothing. Money ain't even an issue no more. We ain't even talking about money no more. That I don't want to talk about it because you done made this about money. This is about living now. I'm finna knock that all down. See, you gotta change the script on there, but see, y'all ain't ready for that. Our ancestors was ready for this. They ain't give a damn about that money. They ain't give a damn about having a carpool or none of that shit. They was getting it together. They was keeping their foot on their neck. It wasn't about no money, player. Oh, we can come up with our own money. But when they find out that we can come up with our own money, we can build our own economic structure, they made it about money. But see, you got to put your foot on their neck again and not make it about money. Not paying for that. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to work. I'm not doing nothing. We don't need this money. What we need is natural resources, food, and a roof over our head. And even you done made it about the money. But it don't take money to get this. So you done disconnected us because you want us focused on the money. Let me flip the script. I'm gonna take this shit. I'm not worried about the money because this is what I need. I don't need the money. We don't need money. This is what we need. We don't need no money. But you done made it about money. See, they don't want nobody around there like me talking like that. They don't want to, talk about that. Can't nobody steal no food because that's what they need. You taking somebody to steal for stealing some food. Can't nobody steal food. That's what they need. What are you gonna take them to jail for stealing food for? That don't make no sense. You gonna put them out because they can't pay no rent? Everybody deserve a roof over their head, but you got to make you making that think is this a luxury? Everybody deserve to be rich. Everybody deserve to have a fine Cadillac and a mansion house. You just cause of some money, you think you deserve that because you got some money. Everybody deserve it. Everybody should be taking them empty ass mansions and houses and living in them motherfuckers. I said it. Like you special because you got some money, some fake ass paper. Paper. Y'all don't want to hear this though. Y'all don't want nothing real like this. You got some paper to tell you important, so now you get a chance to go put your hands on people and stuff. You get to determine who live in the house because they, according on the kind of paper and numbers they got. Now, I say you should go in there and take what you don't deserve that. What the hell? And y'all the most rottenest people. I think everybody should be taking up a mansion or a house. I don't give a damn who built it. Everybody deserve it. You ain't special. Give a damn about your family, your bloodline. I don't give a damn about none of that. You made that like that. That worked for you. You got to break the system. That works because they have created a system. But when you got a revolutionary mind like our ancestors, it breaks their system. They don't know what to do. They go to scrambling. You got to have a revolutionary mind to deal with crazy people. They ain't playing for that. They plan for you to stay inside of a box they created for you. And Hoodoo puts them outside of that box. They wasn't ready for that. I don't think y'all heard me. I don't think y'all heard me. I don't think you hear me. You don't hear me. Just ritual black spiritualist church in New Orleans, which gave birth to the entire movement. So our ancestors. So what you have when you see these spiritualists, and you're gonna see this in your book. When you see these spiritualists and stuff, these spiritualist churches, what you have is a gender war in our church. So you had black women that had spiritual gifts that the ancestors was moving them to do, and you got men in the church. They're wanting to keep their preacher position. They're not wanting to give women leadership positions. So what did women do? They wanted to keep a lot of the women. They wanted to keep up the ancestral practices. They wanted to keep that up. Okay, they wanted to keep doing that. So what did they do? They went on, and a lot of women started the spiritualist movement. You'll see that go on. There was a gender war in there. They did not, a lot of these black preachers did not want women preaching in there. They didn't want them to have any type of leadership roles. But yet women were the main one to keeping the church functioning. Without the black women, any church, and for that matter, even to the day, none of the churches that we have will function without the aid of black women. And that's a fact, Jack. I'm not making this up. You go see. You go look at who's sitting. Who the most people sitting in the church. You gonna see black women sitting in that church. You gonna see black women giving their time. They love Jesus so much, and so these black women, I like what they did, and you can see that. You kind of see that. I'm a good show to remind, give you a good a description what was going on in the black church. Go look at that movie with the Clark sisters, and remember their mama was trying to make them a great singer and all that stuff, and how she went in with those men and she sung with her sister, and that whole church orchestrized her. All those men orchestrized her because they said she shouldn't have did that. The black church didn't want her doing that. Those black men was mad. This is how they did black women. Because you remember that's the only power that black men really had is to be a preacher or something like that. And what they did, what the colonizers was doing to them, they were doing to black women and children. We still have this stuff going on in our community. I have to bring that up. I have to bring that up. And so these women went on. They said, you know what? We still want to do this. We still root workers. We're still midwives. We still seers. We're still mediums. We need our own church. And so you will see a lot of the spiritualist church, even the one in Arkansas. I think the woman is married, but she is the one who does all the light setting, all the conjure work with the members in the church. She is the one with the spiritual gift, not her husband. The spiritual church over in North Rock, that woman is the one that's the root worker. She the conjure woman. The husband is not the country woman. She's the country woman. She's the one gonna be teaching, everybody all about doing the candle work, setting lights and things like that, communicating with spirits. She's the conjure woman over there. And you'll see that most of the women were in these spiritualist churches because these men didn't want to do it. Now I believe the men too, because the Freemasonry was only it was gender based, so only men can be in it. And I believe with my heart, because I think it's true because I seen Martin Luther King standing up there giving a speech in a lodge, in a Freemason lodge. I believe a lot of those ministers became Freemasons, and Hoodoo was eased out the church, and that happened during the time these spiritual churches were being created, and the women were trying to preserve that knowledge. And since they said it was backwards, they didn't want it in there. They wanted to be like the colonizer and all that stuff. They ain't do no make them people sick, honey. Them people didn't even know what's going on. And so they opened these spiritualist churches, and we still have some. They're very prominent in Louisiana. Uh, you'll have it in Memphis too. Okay. So again, as the popularity of this new religious culture spread, the founder personal assistance was sent to Memphis, Tennessee to start a chapter of the church. This would become one of the first of many spiritual churches in Memphis area. Memphis was home to one of the first spiritual churches tied to New Orleans spiritual church movement, which consisted of several churches throughout the southern United States. So they were trying to preserve the ancestral spiritual practices by again developing these spiritual churches. But you can still see it too. A little bit of depending on what church you go to, Catholic Church. I would always say this: they never stop conjuring. The Catholic Church never stopped conjuring. They never stopped practicing necromancy. They can call it saint veneration. They can call it whatever they want to, but y'all do it's the same thing. Y'all never stopped it. You got people in there now that's still conjuring. They still call on their ancestors, working with saints and angels in the Catholic Church. So you still see a lot of that spiritualism within Catholicism. That's why we went on and we synchronized it and we still work with it. Black women have always been the backbone of the Black church. Historically, our churches have been still are made up of more than women than men. Women devoted their entire lives to the church as healers, prayer warriors, caretakers, and midwives, choir leaders, church mothers, and spiritual anchors. Even women were denied the right to preach or hold former leadership positions. They never stopped carrying the spiritual current. So you got it. The women were the backbone of the church, and so you see these men they're getting put over these positions because again you got a racist patriarchal society they're working in, and so too you have a lot of these men they have been programmed uh to be biased towards women and children. They're coming in a place like that. So you got a lot of these men of color that was treating their black women tried to treat the black women like the colonizer treating his women. They take on that. Now we got different things to deal with in our community because we got to tell them you got to fix yourself. Those perception about women is colonized behavior. You got to change that because you ain't over nobody. You don't run us. We're the God. You've been taught wrong. We're the God. God ain't no man. Let's get that. That's a fact, Jack. Okay, God ain't no man. If you was with your ancestors, you understood your knowledge. You understand that you wouldn't be believing everything this man is telling you. Okay, he raggedy. You're trying to be raggedy like him. We're trying to help you. Okay, trying to help you. If you were under your again under the knowledge of your ancestors, you already know that. You know God ain't no man. Okay, you know that. But now you getting right knowledge. But you had these. We still had these things going on. These struggles going on within our community. And the struggle with the genderism is a lot older than racism. That war has been going on for a long time. Racism is the last war of humanity. That was the second one, but the first war was the gender war on women. Racism is really a you ask me, racism is a cover up for what really actually happened to humanity. It's a disguise to cover up what really happened. If you really was to look at it. Okay? A lot of people not looking at that because they got us distracted with so many other things. Okay, this is one of the reasons many spiritual churches emerged when traditional church restricted women's spiritual authority. Our ancestors created spaces where their gifts could be moved freely. Hoodoo itself has always been matriarchal, practical spiritual practice rooted in divine feminine. It flowed through women who were gifted by the divine to heal, protect, see, dream, guide their communities. Sharing these gifts was not optional. It was sacred and a custom of our ancestors. You'll see that a lot. You're going to see that recurring. If you're reading more about your ancestral practice, you're going to see women be the forerunner on this. That's not talked about enough. Women are going to be the forerunner on hoodoo. I have to tell a lot of the practitioners here. I heard one practitioner talking about hoodoo. I said, "Sir, could you just say it's matriarchal? Because you're going around all this stuff to say what it's matriarchal. It's familiar. The mother passed it down. She carries the knowledge. She has the relationship with the land and the herbs and all that. She passes it down to her children, her sons and her daughters. It's matriarchal, sir. Let's stop it. It's indigenous knowledge. So of course it's matriarchal. Okay? Many of our ancestors moved fluidly between hoodoo and Christianity. There was not a difference because it was the same. We had embedded hoodoo into Christianity because both were seen as legitimate ways to access the spiritual realm. The relationship was never fixed. Conjure practitioners adopted Christian symbols, invoking power in the name of the Lord, while preachers incorporated African spiritual elements into worship. It was all in there. They was bringing roots, herbs in there. They said one practitioner, one preacher, he went up in the church. You'll see this in the book. He wanted to test because he had heard that everybody in the church was practicing hoodoo. He was not a hoodoo practitioner, but he was trying to put it out the church. So he decided to do a trick with the church. So he goes up there and he puts a blackjack up there, which it looked like a blackjack to them. He tells them, anybody got any black balls or jack balls or anything or hoodoo bags, bring them up to the altar now to be prayed on. So when he said that, more than half of the people in the congregation bought they hoodoo bags and Toby bags and jack balls and stuff up there. And then after they did that, he tried to shame them for having it. And you will see other when this happened, then you have other preachers following suit because a lot of them shared their sermon techniques with each other. You'll hear some of the same recurrence. If the sermon was good, then other preachers would share their sermon with another preacher. So you got a lot of them sharing their sermon, easing hoodoo out the church with that. Yeah, that actually happened. He tricked the people to bringing their Tobies and they hoodoo bags up there. And then when they brought it up there, he was shamed them for having it. They eased it out the church. And this is what's not talked about. This is the missing gun. That's why you see people up in that church, our people up in that church, and act like they done lost their mind, flying on cables and stuff through the church, or riding on hoverboards, just doing crazy stuff in the church. This what happened. Because they didn't keep the ancestors front and center, and now they up there doing crazy stuff. Okay? So over time, the roles diversified. Herbalists, midwives, hoodoo workers, and conjure women specialized, while black preachers emerged as distinct figures. Yet many preachers retained deep knowledge of hoodoo, and under the church's protective canopy, African spirituality survived. Okay, so you have some people try to do it. Bishop Mason was heavy into it, and remember, they was trying to get him to stop. That's what people don't understand. They didn't want Bishop Mason doing that in the church. I think they were trying to get Bishop Mason to become a Freemason because they didn't want him doing hoodoo in the church. You need to go back and look at his story. Urban migration in early 20th century forced hoodoo to adapt. Rural practices rooted in land and community were strained in the industrial cities where access to nature was limited. Commercial advertising, curio shops, and storefront churches became new sites of spiritual labor. While some traditions were diluted, others evolved. Hoodoo philosophy continued to assert that God's power was not confined to church walls. Spiritual work and root work complemented Christians' belief rather than contradicted it. Pentecostalism and sanctified churches preserved many African religious elements, including spirit possession. They was doing it in church. Okay, I seen it all the time. Ecstatic worship, healing, and sacred dance. Zora Neale Hurston identified these churches as among the most African and Black Protestantism. New Orleans spiritual churches openly integrated Christianity with voodoo, Catholicism, and conjure. Mother Leafy Anderson Eternal Life Spiritualist Church became a major force in spreading this blended spiritual culture across the South, particularly in Memphis, which later hosted one of the largest spiritual church conventions in the nation. Okay, I'll give you the name of the books in a minute. The name of the books that we're reading from, old books, you probably read it and looked over it. Black Magic Religion by Yvonne P. Charay. The Conjuring of America, which we just dropped it in our community not too long ago. The Mojo Working, The Secret of Memphis Hoodoo. All of this is in those books. And if in our community, you already got that. You already have these books. If you're in our community, you get all these books in our community. You already have access to this stuff. Okay. So again, despite their resilience, African spiritual practices uh, provoke fear among outsiders. Newspapers warned white artisans of hoodoo dangers. Missionaries and educators sought to cleanse black churches of African elements, equating hoodoo to ignorance. Some black reformers assimilating white Baragos's values joined these efforts, condemning conjure as an obstacle to racial progress. They felt like conjure and hoodoo, oh, that's not progress. We going back to these barbaric superstitions of our ancestors. There was omens and spiritual practices of our ancestors very more advanced than the Christianity that these raggedy people trying to give you. They believe this stuff. Okay? They really wrote books on this. You have these again, these black reformers writing books on trying to take hoodoo out the church and conjure. And W.E. Du Bois, he wanted it out of there too. Because he trying to be like the colonizers. He was one of the good ones, as they call it. See, a lot of them was boule too. So a lot of the people that you think were influential leaders, you have to question. We're looking at Jesse Jackson, Boule, Al Sharpton, Boule. Most of the people that you're seeing now in front of you, most of them are Boule. If they are still alive, they are Boule. The people that's talking like me, what I just said, like Malcolm X and all them people that was doing the real work, they're not with us no more. Them was the real. That was the real. I know you don't want to hear that, but that's true. People that was spitting the real people, they don't keep them people around long. Them people that soft and tiptoe around what they want them to say or whatever, the compromised people, they keep them people alive. They don't mess with them people. The people that don't give a damn and tell the truth right on out the gate, oh, hey, they got to get rid of you because you're going to start a revolution. You're going to get people to think different, and they don't want that. Now, anyway, these people start getting us to think different and to overthrow this system and what they got going on. Them people ain't gonna live. They got rid of Martin Luther King as soon as he started telling you that you was you become a slave in your own on your own land. When he got to saying that, they got rid of Martin Luther King. Oh, we don't want them to know that they're American Indians. No, 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 no. We don't want you talking like that. These people come from Africa. We do not need them to know that they're American Indians. We do not need them to know that. We want you to keep singing kumbaya and all this sort of stuff and peace and all that. Because if you knew that this was your house, ain't nowhere in hell you'd be sitting up there looking at them people. You'll be doing the same thing Haiti did. Haiti, they knew them people ain't from Africa. Haitians, and they from Haiti. People ain't from Africa. They put them people off that land. You ain't bringing them people there to work on that. Them people's already there, so stop lying on them people. Most of them was already there. They got your. I bet you ain't there no more, is you? You ain't there no more, is you? Okay, the people just lying. And so you got a lot of people compromised. They'll repeat the same thing. Well, you know, we come from Africa. Stop it. There was a small percentage of them that came over here. Stop that. Stop that. Y'all may seem like y'all got half of the African continent and brought them to America, and that is a bold-faced lie. That is a lie. They were already there. Everywhere you see dark people was already there. Even when you look at the Samoans, you look at the Netherlands, the Maori people, black people was already there. I'm in here in Thailand and I'm seeing people dark, Thai people dark as me. Let's cut the gangs out. It just ain't true. So you'll see these being repeated with it was a very small percentage. They are no longer African now. They are absorbed into the Americas. They're now indigenous. When you go to that country, you become absorbed into them. Why do you think that these pale faced people trying to keep their numbers? Because they're gonna get absorbed. You're gonna get absorbed. You're gonna turn back black. Everything about you is regressive anyway. So why would you want to be that color? It's regressive. You were never meant to be that. That's a mutation. That skin color is a mutation. You were never meant to stay that color. It's a regressive gene. So if all your genes is regressive, I know your thinking is regressive because now you want to send everybody back, set everybody back 100 years because your genes is regressive and you trying to preserve regressive genes. They're regressive. They were never meant to be long term in the first place. It's a mutation. It's a deficiency. I know y'all want to hear it like that, but it is what it is. You go look at the DNA. You do your study of biology, DNA. Look at their genetics, what it says. Look at our genetics, what it says. It's going to tell you what it is. I'm not making this up. I'm not being mean or malicious or nefarious here. I'm just speaking the truth. Those genetics were not meant, just like the XY chromosome. It's going extinct. You know, I can go on that. Men don't get mad at me. They ain't my genetics. You know what I'm saying? It's your genetics. It's going extinct. You got stuff going on with you. Look at your genetics. I'm not making it up. Wish it was. Don't get in your feelings about it. It is what it is. The Great Spirit, and I already, you know, has this natural selection. What is of importance here? What is not? I didn't make the selection. It's in the genetics, the biology. I don't care how many pieces of papers you write to make it seem like you're superior. Pale faced people, your genetics say regressive, regressive, regressive. I don't care what paper you come up with. I don't care how many people you try to unalive. I don't care how mad you get. I don't care. You're still got regressive genes. Same thing with the XY chromosome. I don't care how many women you get mad at. I don't care how many muscles you get. I don't care how smart you think you is. I don't care. The woman still God. It don't matter. The woman still have more genetic maturity than you and is superior to you in mind, body, and spirit. I don't care. I don't care how many muscles you got. I don't care how many people you can beat up. I don't care. I don't care. Women are still superior, are the superior species to here on this planet. It's we can't I didn't make it up. Science is science. You can get mad all you want to. You can believe that stuff about religions and all that. You ain't had no woman, ain't no baby come from your rib. So let's just cut it out. A lot of making up stories and stuff going on there. Okay? I have to bring it, cut it down to you like that. So we got a lot of deprogramming to do. The racism from the genderism. This is humanity. This is our work to do. We got a lot of work to do. Despite the resilience, African spiritual practices provoke fear among outsiders. The newspaper, again, they warned the white people about us because it worked. Okay, they knew that it worked. All they got to do is look at the numbers. Yep. That's all you have to do is look at the number. And we got people arguing with facts here. We're creating laws and stuff. Everything we got is in inversion. If there ever was a thing as a hell, earth is it because it's in opposition of the truth. It's all inversion. It's all in blasphemy of the great mother. It's all to keep you blind again, because once you find that God as the mother, all the games stop. All the games stop when you find out God as the mother and not the father. All the games stop. You think it's about race, it really, really it's about you because once you can shut it down. None of this man world doesn't exist without the woman. Because the minute you close your portal and shut it down, his world is in. His world in. Oh yeah, it'll be the end of the world. It's gonna be the end of his world, not yours. He know that. That's why he trying to get control of your womb. It don't matter if you black or white, whatever. They're scrambling. His world will end once you know who you are. Not God the Father, the Punisher, the warmonger. Not that they created, but the Mother God. Once you know that, their world ends. All this inversion, writing stuff down and to make it law. When the law is written in the woman, she ain't have to write nothing down because she moved by cosmic law. Man had to write laws down because he had no cosmic law in him. But y'all ain't ready for that conversation. I saved that for another day. But if you come to me in our community, I have no choice. I am not going to. I again because we have more knowledge now. Our ancestors again have created liberation and freedom for us to speak freely and tell nothing but the truth. I have to decolonize this and take the misogyny out of it and give it to you in pure form. I will show it to you. I don't make it up. Ain't no reason for me to make it up. All this has been written down. I even show you in the book where these men already know that they have to bow down to the divine feminine. They have written this in their fancy occult books. They already know this, but they got you bound down to the demiurge. I'm gonna put it like that. Make it simple. They got you bound down to a demiurge, a fake god, a god of the material world that they made up. And they know that this is a mother god. They're not. It's not like they don't know. They know. They know. They've written this down. They know. They're gonna give you something fake though. That's why I have to tell you. You actually believe they're gonna give you something that actually work? No, they're not. But they gonna be up in there practicing all the spiritual sciences and all that stuff, and then they're gonna use it evil, and then they're gonna use it on you for nefarious reasons. That's they're gonna use it against you. They're using the hidden knowledge that you don't know. They're using it against you. But if you was under the great mother, you'll know all the sciences. All of us will have our superpowers. They wouldn't have to be doing no torture or trauma to unlock people's spiritual gifts, because if you had the science of your great mother, all of us would be operating out of our spiritual gifts. But these patriarchs and took it and hid it and used it for raggedy stuff. Okay, I'm done with that. You can take what you want, that what you will. That's what's happening here. Okay. And some black, again, you had black reformers on that that they wanted to take that out of there. They wanted to be like, uh, and you see that too in Lovecraft Country when you see them really trying to be in that Freemason society. Okay, you have these men want to be just like they don't know why, because that hoodoo was enough. Y'all, you had more magic there than you did in their occult practice. They still trying to figure out the ancient sciences of your ancestors, and here you already got it in you, and you want to be up in there with them. So you got a lot of them wanted to be up in there. They thought they was getting something. This dismantling left the black church spiritually vulnerable as African spiritual principles were stripped away. Institutional Christianity, rooted in white theology, imagery, and financial control, filled the void. Churches dependent on the Christian banking system and white religious frameworks lost ancestral grounding. And of course, too, if you haven't heard, not the Christianity have their own banking system. If you were wanting to open a church and use their funds, there are some agreements that terms and agreements you have to agree to. And I think one of the agreements that you have to agree to is that Jesus is white. Trip me out. Yeah, they give loans and things like that. To be in that system, you have to totally agree to the way their view and perception of their spiritual practices. It's got to be European. I ain't making this up. You go look it up yourself. So a lot of our churches were being, and sometimes funds was withheld from churches that still practiced hoodoo. They wouldn't get any funding. If you were to keep your own African spiritual systems within that church, those churches would not get any funding. You only got any funding if you were to go with everything Jesus white, all that stuff. You got to go along with that. But if because you didn't, you had your ancestral stuff, you wasn't getting any funding. Mormons too crazy work. Okay. So they again they discouraged it. They eased it out of there. Yet hoodoo endured. Ethnologists documented it. Storefronts church sheltered it. Spiritualists reframed it as ministry. Conjurers became mediums, tarot readers, root workers, and healers. The tradition adapted and synchronized and survived. And you're seeing it go through changes today. Today, hoodoo continues to transform as descendants reclaim ancestral memory. What becomes clear through history is uh, this hoodoo is heritage. Hoodoo is black history. Couldn't have black history without hoodoo. Okay? It is an ancestral power encoded in the practice, not doctrine. It made life survivable in an unlivable system. It created fairness where laws offered none. There is no power in the black church without hoodoo or any movement that we have, because hoodoo carried the spiritual wisdom that animated it. Hoodoo did not oppose Christianity, it infused it. It is the superpower given to us by our ancestors, and it remains alive wherever black people remember who they are. If you're interested in these resources, especially if you're in our community, you can look at the book Black Magic Religion by Yvonne Charay. The Conjuring of America. We just did a review on that, and we listened to The Author by Lindsay Stewart. Mojo Working by Katrina Hazard Donald. And A Secret History of Memphis Hoodoo by Tony Cale. So we have covered this in our book, and many of our books and many of the hoodoo books, you're going to see the history being repeated over and over again. And if you was to learn more about hoodoo, you're going to see a lot of people document the stories of our ancestors and the way they practice herbalism and use root work and things like that. So it's going to be highly documented. And I do recommend that you read the history, because when you read the history and read what our ancestors worked, you're also learning how to practice hoodoo. You'll start getting out. You'll start putting stuff together. You'll learn authentic hoodoo, but and that people miss that. They want to learn a spell and skip learning the history. But if you read the history, you're gonna learn more about the magic and the work than going directly to the spell, because you get a chance to hear the elder tell you how it works and how it break it down in details. But see, a lot of y'all don't like to read. You want to go to something fast. But you miss a lot when you don't go back and look at this history. You're not learning to practice, you're trying to learn magic without learning to practice. But the practice doesn't work. The magic doesn't work without the practice. Okay? And that's why you see your spell don't work, and somebody teaching you a spell and they ain't teaching you to practice. You heard me say that before. And the practice is way more important than the spell. In fact, if you understood the practice, you wouldn't be engaged in a lot of spell work, because you will have an intimate relationship with your ancestors. Because once you start talking to ancestors, they start moving stuff. They start moving stuff. You wouldn't have to do it that much. And if you did, you'll see the shifts will be faster. Okay. So now that you know what hoodoo is, it is our heritage. It is black history. It is culture. You can't have it without it. It's in our music. It's in our religion. It's everywhere. And once you'll see this, once you start communicating with your ancestor veneration together, I can't get rid of it. It's everywhere. Ancestors everywhere. Everywhere. I can't get rid of it. Every time I look around, anywhere I go, I see ancestors. I see it. Okay, because my eyes is open. So, and you can't have hoodoo without ancestor veneration. And you definitely can't have black history or black heritage without hoodoo. Because without hoodoo, without that magic and that power, I don't think we would have survived the way we did. Okay. So if you're interested in learning more about hoodoo, because we cover everything about that, please get over there in our community on Patreon, Spiritual Roots Hoodoo Community. We're just getting ready to start our tarot workshop. Should be starting up next week. We'll be starting up our workshop. So we'll have that next week. We also have a healing community over there as well. I do provide readings, ancestors readings, akashic readings, regular readings. I also do natal charts readings. So if you're interested in those, you can go in my bio and check those out, or just DM me and I'll send you some information if you're interested in setting up appointment. But we do have a community. We have a variety of resources that help you on your hoodoo journey if that's something that you're interested in. And we covered a lot here today. And I want to leave you with this before I close out. Please do not forget about your ancestors on that land. Don't forget about them. Don't forget about them, because they paved the way, not just for you, but for many nations. Because we got many nations enjoying what we fought for on that American land. Don't forget that, because it- we had some awesome milestone in history happen with Black America, and that didn't happen anywhere else on the globe. It happened there with us. So please don't disrespect them. Learn as much as you can about the magic on their land, whether it's going into Mexican magic. You might go into that. Hoodoo might go into that. And you'll find too that a lot when you go into Mexican magic, you'll see a lot of the stuff in Mexican magic is in hoodoo. Okay, because it's all tied to the land. And that is and when you go into that, you'll see a lot of the closed magic over there. You'll understand why it's closed, why we can't tell everybody, everything. Okay. All right, you guys, thank you for being here. I hope you enjoyed the live stream. I hope you enjoyed these this approach to understanding Black history and hoodoo. Okay? Love you guys. I hope to hear from you soon.